Good evening, everyone. Michelle, can you please read the sunshine law?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, April 6, 2021. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, the Star Ledger, and the Two River Times.
Great, thank you. Can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council President Good.
Here.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
Here.
Councilmember Davidson. Councilmember McNamara.
Here.
Councilwoman Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I just have one glitch that I'm trying to fix on the settings. Sorry, everyone. Got it. Okay. If everyone could please join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everyone could please remain standing. Tonight's moment of silence is in dedication. Keyport Fire Department member Dale Arthur is a member of Liberty Hose Company number 3, ex-captain who passed away suddenly over the weekend. Thank you. Today we have a proclamation in awareness of Alcohol Awareness Month. Whereas excessive drinking is responsible for approximately 5,000 deaths among underage adolescents each year. And whereas alcohol is the most commonly used addictive substance in the United States and often begins during adolescence. Underage drinking entices many young people as they mature due to peer pressure, stress, or the desire to become independent. Whereas at least 24.6% of the 14 to 15-year-olds reported having at least one drink. In many cases, adolescents receive alcohol through family or have free access to it at home. And whereas people ages 10 to 20 drink more than a few sips of alcohol, known as binge drinking, they consume 4% of all alcohol in the United States, even though they drink less often than adults do. They drink more at one time. And whereas research shows that adolescents who begin drinking before the age of 15 are at a higher risk of developing an alcohol disorder later in life. And whereas research also reveals that young people's brains are still developing well into their 20s, and alcohol use can alter their development, potentially affecting both brain structure and function. And whereas underage drinking is also associated with increased risk of depression, anxiety, sleep disturbances, and mood disorders. Now, therefore, I, Colette Kennedy, in conjunction with the Keyport Municipal Alliance to Prevent Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, join the National Council of Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, and do hereby proclaim that April 2021 is Alcohol Awareness Month in Keyport. As the Mayor of Keyport, I also call upon all citizens, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses and schools in Keyport to support efforts that will provide early education about alcoholism and addiction and increase support for individuals and families coping with alcoholism. Through these efforts together, we can provide help for today, hope for tomorrow, for those in our community who are facing challenges with use of alcohol. If I call for the meeting to open to the public for agenda items, do any council members have any items to review or wish to have pulled prior to opening to the public?
Mayor, I just have a couple of questions on maybe they'll be answered, so I just they don't need to be pulled. But with regard to 10221, the performance bond for 144 3rd Street, Jay, how is their escrow? I mean, I'm reading CME's letter here, and I guess this is kind of a move the money from one account to the other because they haven't finished everything that was demanded or that was part of the approval. And then they still have to pay this $2,600 or $2,700 bill for whatever they did to our water main. And then the rest of it is, the escrow. So where are they on the escrow? Their general escrow. Have they paid anything? I can't hear you, Jay.
The reimbursement has been paid, and as is indicated in the attached recommendation from the borough engineer that is recommending the release, partial release of the performance bond guarantee, there is a requirement that they replenish, if need be, to cover the final inspection costs at closing.
Okay, so they have reimbursed the $2,700.
That's correct.
And Mayor, just one more question about the Mariners Village endorsement. Can I guess I think I saw Trevor's name pop up. Can Trevor explain what exactly this is, what this resolution is for? And I also want to know whether or not their escrow is still funded.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Mr. Good. The resolution is for endorsement. We actually have to execute the application to submit the water main extension permit application to the DEP. So as part of their site plan application, they're extending a 12-inch water main from Beer Street to their property. So anytime you have a certain number of units in a residential application, you have to go to the DEP for a water main construction permit. This is essentially authorizing Mr. Delaney to execute the application to submit to the DEP.
I'm assuming just a standard application.
Correct. It's a standard water main construction permit for the DEP.
Okay. I know. And Jay, how are these guys on the escrow? Because I know we had a problem with them before, or a number of times before.
Can't hear you, Jay.
I can't speak specifically as to where the escrow is as of this date, but they have been maintaining their escrow. As you're aware, there is an application still pending before the, technically two applications pending before the planning board related to the marina portion of the property, as well as the extension of the prior approvals granted for the residential portion of the property. So the escrow is fluctuating upward and downward almost on a weekly basis.
Thank you. And Mayor, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another council member had a question. Councilwoman McNamara.
Thank you. I also have a couple of questions on Mariners Village and a few others, so I'll just start with Mariners Village. I just wanted to make sure who's paying for the application, because I know it's being submitted that Keyport is the applicant. So is that application being paid for out of the escrow?
So they are responsible to pay the application fees. Since Keyport is the water purveyor, we need to be the applicant, but the developer would be responsible for any fees that are associated with the application. And that would be separate from the escrow. They would be responsible to pay that directly to the DEP.
Okay, I also see that, I guess, the way the pipes go, and because, as with a lot of other Keyport streets, there's concrete. As it goes from Broadway to Beers, that's the section that it's going to be, the pipes are under the sidewalk, if I'm not mistaken.
It actually goes from under the roadway to under the sidewalk, right by Peterson's. I believe it's right before you get to the bridge, next to the fishery. So at some point between the bridge and Broadway, it changes from under the roadway to under the sidewalk.
Okay, so who's responsible for repairing the sidewalks?
The applicant would be responsible. So the applicant is required to post a performance bond for any water main work or any utility work within the right of way. So they'd be responsible to restore the sidewalk and or pavement to either borough or county standards.
Okay, and my last thing is, in the resolution, it says the borough engineer has reviewed said application in a letter to the borough, recommended that the borough execute the application. My only concern is on page 2 of the letter that we got from CME, it does specifically say, provided the attached technical comments are addressed prior to the submission of the application. And that's like a 5-page letter of 29 technical comments. So I know, at least for me, I guess I would want something in the resolution that acknowledges that, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, I would have, it's a good recommendation to include that in the resolution. They have not submitted revised plans yet, so that resubmission is outstanding, and we will make sure that they address those comments prior to it being submitted to the DEP.
Yeah, I mean, have they agreed to the constructive criticism, et cetera, that you've given them in general?
They not submitted, but they know, obviously they'll have to address those comments or review any comments with us for review prior to them submitting to the DEP. So, we'll make sure that we don't return the required forms to them until they address those comments to our satisfaction.
Okay. And then Mayor, I just have two quick questions. 9921, which is related to Atlantic and Church Street. My question there is, it looks like the jetting would just be a rental of the equipment for one day. And so it says that Atlantic Street would be handled, but that Church Street would be as time permits. And from reading this, it seems to me that since we're going to be looking to pave Church Street, the recommendation is to do this work at Church Street. So I'm not sure how much work has been put in by CME to recommend what should be done at Church Street, and then why we would maybe not do the work at Church Street for pre-paving.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The resolution that's on for this evening is authorizing CME to review the reports of the cammering and jetting of Atlantic and Church Street, which were both completed today. But your point is 100% valid, that not sure the turnaround time for those reports to be submitted back to us for Mr. Taylor to be able to review. But since you're on the call, Mr. Taylor, can you confirm Councilwoman McNamara's points of view as making sure that any of the repairs that would be needed are incorporated already into the Church Street project?
Yes, and I can report that they did complete all of Church Street from Maple up to First Street today. So we do have, they were able to camera the entire line within the roadway improvements.
Okay, I was just concerned when I saw time permitting. And then the last one is the 10121, the $52,000 going to Mott McDonald. Do we have any recourse with the contractor on the other side for the delays that and things that happened that, you know, were cause for us to incur part of that 52,000 additional charge, if I'm reading that right?
I'm going to defer this one to Jay, but my understanding is that there'll still be a couple of years escrow held on the project, but this is just for the payment of bills on the expansion of that project. Is that correct, Jay?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the mayor's indicated, we still, the project, the construction project with Capola Construction for the physical work and improvements has been completed. We do hold a 2-year maintenance bond on that work. We do not have any recourse back to the contractor for the delays, as indicated in the letter report from Mott McDonald. Kyle Smith from Mott McDonald is on the line tonight as well. He may want to can address that directly, just as this project was concluded before my arrival. So I don't have most of the specifics, but Kyle is here, Mayor, with your permission. Ask him to address that.
Yes, thanks, Jay and Mayor and Councilwoman. So that the project was closed out with Capola Services earlier, actually late last year. This is for payment related to the delays, some of which is attributed to the contractor, some of which is attributed to the startup operations of the plant, and some with respect to borough requested changes and unforeseen conditions, which we could not attribute to the contractor. So the contractor has been closed out. As Jay mentioned, there is a maintenance bond for any additional work, anything that arises. There's a 2-year maintenance bond that we do have the contractor on the hook for, should something come up.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Any other council members have any commentary?
Mayor, I'm sorry, I had my hand up. I'll shout
I'm
out.
sorry, I didn't see it.
That's okay. I'll just shout next time. I just wanted to ask if the sewer line was going to be extended or affected on the Mariners Village project.
You mean in addition to the water line?
Well, yeah, in addition or in relation to, or is there any increase of capacity for the sewer line as well that's going to be taken care of in relation to 100-21? I know it's not in there, but when I was on the planning board and we discussed this, the sewer capacity was of issue. So,
Mr. Taylor, do you have an update for Councilman Papadopoulos?
This resolution is just for the water. I'd have to check the application of the planning board to see if what the latest sanitary sewer report is for that project. That's not an application that we reviewed. That was actually being reviewed by TNM. So I can double check that and report back to Mr. Delaney.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Great point, Councilman Patapoulos. Okay.
Comments?
Oh, yes, Councilman Davidson, sorry.
Sorry, thank you. I'm sorry, what was that?
I apologize. I don't know why I'm having a delay tonight with video and audio. So, sorry.
In regards to, I have a few, 9821, the lights at the field, it says certain lights. I mean, I know we're all talking about the baseball field lights, but does that need to be clarified as to which lights? And we're waiving that as $100, but is that, I'm assuming that's per team for the season, or how does this work in the past? Is it per team, per season?
So the ordinance calls for it per night, per season. But after a review last year, we're not really quite sure whether that was actually being adhered to. So I think that's why they're saying that they'd rather it be, this is a request by Recreation, that they waive the fees. But I'm going to defer to Councilwoman McNamara, because she's, and Councilwoman McDermott. Councilwoman McDermott was part of the conversations last year, and I know they put the request in to Councilwoman McNamara this year, or Councilman Good. I believe you were in some of the meetings this year. So if either of the three of you have feedback on this, I will also point out that it was 2 or 3 years ago. I think we had to pay several $1,000s to replace the bulbs on that field. So the bulbs are not cheap, so we should be aware of that.
I'll speak about the history so that everyone knows the history behind this. So the history, the intention of the issue was to fix the ordinance so it wouldn't be a per session usage. And the ordinance was very limited to light usage versus using of the field itself. So conversations were to fix the ordinance so that it was a per usage or seasonal usage, whether you use the lights or not. That was a historical tense of what's occurred this year is different, and this is a little different than what I expected. So I'll defer over to.
This one is just for this year. They're a request asking the waiver. They're saying it has something to do with COVID. I'm not really understanding that. Councilwoman McNamara, do you, or President Good, do you have feedback on this?
I do, Mayor. The way the ordinance is written, it calls for $100 per session, which on top of the permit fee for, let's say you took all Monday nights during the season would be $250. If that team then had to pay $100 per session, that would be about another $2,500, which I don't think was the intention. And for many years that has not been applied. So I'm trying to do some homework with Mr. Delaney to find out what the actual cost of the usage is, in case what the original intention would be if you did Monday nights instead of $250 for Mondays, it would be $350 because it would be an extra $100 for the lights for the season. So we're just trying to get to the root of that and keep it consistent with what it was the last few years. And at this point, we're still not, we still have not authorized, outside use of the fields. But I think that the ordinance itself just needs to be reviewed and clarified.
Thank you. Councilman Good, do you have anything?
I'll just second what Kathleen said. I think that the issue is that some of what the Recreation Committee is dealing with and this ordinance seems to be left over from when it was a commission and there was a lot more autonomy by the commission in terms of the costs associated with, the fields and everything else. So it did not appear that this has been updated to now relay to the committee as opposed to a commission. So like Kathleen said, I think we're trying to bring this all together to have one cohesive and proper ordinance. I think the reference to the COVID is a secondary reason of this year. I don't know whether or not we should going in and saying, well, now there's this extra $100 and we know that people have had difficult times raising money for some of these nonprofits. So we were just looking to help them out. But I think the main impetus was that somehow this is an anachronism of the commission, which just has not been clarified.
Okay.
Councilman Davidson, is your question answered?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. On 8921, the Kiwanis. So I know there's a long history that goes along with this, but a couple of things with this one are we're not approving any events at this point. We're going, I believe, what do we say, month to month at this point, or per meeting. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what we said. But would that have to be reflected in the resolution? And then I also saw in the I guess the contract, the license fee was crossed out. So is that another situation where we're waiving a fee for the Kiwanis to use the parking lot? And then the security deposit as well. So I see that there's a $500 security deposit. Is that something that we have collected in the past? And given the issues that have arisen from the Kiwanis using the parking lot, is that something that we keep at the end of the season? So a little bit more information about that. And I welcome the other council members, see if there's other discussion on the approval of going forward with that, especially considering the space it takes up and the marina down the road if we have the jet skis again this season and parking. So those are my questions, the fees and the
I
security.
can give you some feedback on that if you like. So last year was the first year that they did require a license agreement instead, and they did put a $500 deposit down. That $500 deposit has not been returned. Their intention was to possibly roll it over to this year if this was approved. However, the $500 deposit was also put down prior to 72 parking spaces being spray painted by the Kiwanis for their use without any permission. So that would all need to be rectified. I'm not even sure the $500 would cover that. It's obviously disheartening that they would take our property and spray paint the numbers on the surface. We did have a meeting, Jay, myself, and the new president, and I explained the several years of continuous challenges that we face, and had suggested, encouraged them to look into possible alternate locations. They do provide scholarships for the school children, both Union Beach and Keyport. We have provided that space to them pretty much free of charge until last year for just the deposit. Whereas normally anyone that was going to use borough use of property for 42 weeks would be a minimum of $4,200 that we would collect if we did the $100 fee. We've had issues with the garbage left behind in the past. I had suggested a couple of years ago that perhaps they can look at other locations, even school property since they fund the scholarships, or maybe move it over to Union Beach waterfront on a Sunday. That location is prominent between two takeout businesses. And right now, we're still in a public health emergency where outdoor dining is encouraged, and a lot of people tailgate there. We met with them 3 weeks ago. Jay heard back from the new president last night. She said she will work on addressing the numerous concerns we continuously have. But she ended it with a question: what about the garbage that's down there when they arrive at 7 a.m.? No mention of how they're gonna take their garbage out. But again, this is another, situation. It's a nonprofit entity that, does good charitable work. But at the same time, we owe it to Mike Subs, Keyport Fishery, all the outdoor dining restaurant, as well as people that, want to embrace outdoor recreational activities, fishing, what have you, and not continuing to be a burden on our employees with ongoing issues. Those date back for the entire 5 years that I've been on the dais. I will also take this opportunity to remind everyone that Monmouth County last year is one of the first 9 counties to receive CARES Act funding from the federal government. They were very generous in offering businesses and all nonprofits grants. Started up to $10,000 and then went up to $20,000 by the end of the year. And as long as your losses were not due to gambling, you were eligible for the grant. It was a 1-page application. Any nonprofit was eligible to apply. $48 million went back to nonprofits and businesses from Monmouth County CARES Act. So all the nonprofits that are on the agenda this evening were eligible to apply for those grants and would have been most likely fully funded. So I think that should be taken into consideration for several items on the agenda this evening. I'm not sure if that helps clarify.
It does, but I guess I look for my fellow council members to have discussion over the Kiwanis. Is it a discussion, or do we just see what they hold with the new contract and the agreement that they have in place and see how it goes for one more year? That's that. I don't know if anybody else have any, am I allowed to ask any, they have other comments? Boss.
Did you say that there was a license fee that was scratched out?
Yes.
Where is that? And I'm just, because I've been looking for that one.
Give me 1 second to find it here.
The other thing is the condition of the premises, given that there's paint on the ground already that needs to be revised or adjusted, to note that that needs to be repaired. And that shouldn't happen again.
If it gets approved.
If it gets approved, yes.
Councilman Good, President Good, Councilman President Good. To answer your question, it's in the license agreement from the Kiwanis on page 3, and it's paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last line, license shall submit with license fee for certificate of insurance showing required additional parties named, and it's with license fee is crossed out.
Oh, okay. I was looking for a dollar amount there. That's why I wasn't seeing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, the only dollar amount I saw was for the security deposit. If we approve it, if there's a way we could maybe increase the security deposit in case the agreement doesn't go the way we want, and this way we have a little cushion to help out with any expenses that are incurred.
Jay had something to add to that.
Just to clarify,
Can't hear him.
Jay, cut out.
Can't hear you.
Come on, Jay.
I'll unmute mine and see if that works.
I'll use yours and then I'll call.
We could hear you.
Just to clarify, the license agreement was initially drafted with a license fee in last year. And section 2 on page 1 that's reserved is the section that had the original license fee information.
I missed that, Jay.
Thank you.
Can you just repeat it? Thanks.
Sure. Page 1 of the license agreement at section 2, reserved. That's the section that the license agreement as originally drafted last year included a license fee. That was removed last year, and this is a redo of last year's agreement.
Thank you, Jay. Is there, I feel bad, I feel like I'm harping on all the nonprofits right now, but am I allowed to ask a question about something in communications at this point, or do I wait for another section?
If you think it's something the public would have to clarify, I would ask it now.
The public would have to clarify it?
When I open it up to the public. So
Oh,
if there's a question that you may, someone's on call that you may want them to clarify, or if it's something the council, if it's just amongst conversation amongst the, what is that background noise?
I don't know.
Somebody's phone, 5438, I think.
Yeah,
it is.
someone needs to mute.
There we go.
It's regarding communication number 4, the Historical Society letter. And the increase in, I guess the request for additional funds.
Yes. I did note, I can defer this to the Finance Committee. I did notice in the budget introduction, by way of past history, in previous years, there was $1,000 line item. The Historical Society was struggling with getting donations for their trolleys. So a previous administrator had received $1,000 donation from JCP&L for holiday festivities, and that was fed through us directly to the Historical Society, and that was a one-time situation. That has not been funded since. This request for the $2,500, I do see that that's listed as a line item in the budget introduction, but it's important to note that that society was also eligible for up to $20,000 from the Monmouth County CARES Act.
So I guess my only comment with that is, again, I love the Historical Society. I love all these nonprofits, but I'm concerned if we're setting a precedence by increasing one nonprofit, and then does that open up the door for all the others to come through when they were eligible for the CARES Act money? And how much did anybody apply for and get turned down? Is that what this is? Or I love the Historical Society. I'm just worried that this opens up Pandora's box if we allow that increase when other funds were
I do
available
have
to
a
them.
request into Monmouth County asking for a report of everyone that applied, both profit and business, profit and nonprofit, and who applied and who received. I do not have that report back yet from the county. But I actually have some of the same sentiments in my mayor's report in regards to how much assistance we're giving out to nonprofits.
Okay, that's all I have right now. I have a couple questions on payments of bills, but I guess we could address those later, I suppose.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other council members?
Of the answer. So the questions were asked by others, so thank you. I do just want to note that on the license agreement for the Kiwanis, that needs the stipulation that the property be left as premises, needs to be noted that it needs to be put back to its original state prior to 2020.
If it's approved, yes. Well, it needs to be put back either way. Whether it's approved or not tonight, it needs to be restored to the condition they
Yeah.
found it last year. Have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, first we will go by show of hands. This is a reminder that this is only for items listed on the agenda. And it does not include the marijuana topic. We will have a separate public session for that later. So I'm going to go video first. So show of hands first before we go to phone lines. And again, this is for agenda items only. Mr. Straub?
Yes, thank you. Question on new business. You have listed netting. I believe that's for the Main Street Park. Will there be a public comment when you're talking about the netting, or should I make those comments now?
You haven't, it would be great if we make it now.
Okay. My only suggestion would be before, because I think it was mentioned, and again, I don't know the details, it won't be discussed until new business, but I believe a figure was thrown out about $12,000 for netting. I was just wondering if before making that expenditure, possibly the council could consider just putting some signage up that would say, for example, you know, caution batted balls, as you have in Major League ballparks and other ballparks. When there's a baseball field nearby, you know, generally people know that there's a chance that balls, you know, could come in the area. So maybe before spending the $12,000, just putting some signage up, just to, again, caution people if they don't already realize there could be batted balls.
Great point, Mr. Straub. I actually made that suggestion as well. Either way, whether the netting gets approved or not, that there should be signage, both in case someone's walking along the trail, but it's also important to note that that ball field home plate hasn't moved at all, and the trail's been there for many years. So those are great points, and we'll take those into consideration when the discussion takes place later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of the public on camera that wish to speak, if you could raise your hand first. Mr. Graham?
You're not hearing anything.
Heard you.
Oh, they put you in.
Okay. Everything.
I can't hear anybody.
Mr. Graham, can you unmute yourself, please?
I can't hear anything. Michael, I'm telling you, you're not unmuted.
No one's speaking. He is unmuted. Mr. Lane is unmuted. Now
There
Mr.
you
Graham
go,
is
Elma.
unmuted. Mr. Graham is next.
Okay, resolutions 9921 and 121. Are they they're going to be beneficial to taxpayers at Keyport?
Resolution 9921 is the follow-up of the inspections of the store lines on Church and Atlantic Street that we've talked about for about, 8 years. So hopefully the video footage will show where all the store lines keep backing up into the homes on those streets. So yes, it would be beneficial. Depends on the cost of the repairs afterwards. But yes, that will be part of the infrastructure. And then I think the other one you said was 100.
Yes.
Yes, because at the expense of the developer of Mariners Village, we're getting a wider water line service up through that part of town. Am I correct, Mr. Taylor? Are you still on?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Anyone else on video? If you want to raise your hands, and then we'll go to phone lines after.
Yo, I don't know who to trust.
Okay. Next, we will go to the phone lines for agenda item items. Mr. Lane?
John Marilla, 34 Broad.
Hold on one second, Mr. Miller. I think you guys said hello at the same time after I called
Okay.
Mr. Lane. Thank you. Mr. Lane? You're unmuted, but I don't hear you.
This is Tina Wright with the Kiwanis of Keyport.
Miss Wright, if you can hold on 1 second, we were just waiting for Mr. Lee.
Did I hear you now?
Yes, there you go, Linda.
All right, Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. One item is the full agenda package wasn't available till 1:30 today before the meeting today. Can you work the problem of having the agenda full package available by noon on Monday so the residents can have the opportunity to take a good look at it, please? Regarding Resolution 100, the Mariner Village water system, I thought the council members brought up really significant issues that really required that this resolution be postponed until these issues are dealt with. One of the significant issues is that there's about 25 items in the borough engineer's report that indicate the present plan isn't acceptable and needs to be updated. And this particular applicant has a real challenge for following through on updating his plans. Second is the escrow. You can't even go before planning boards in other towns, for example, Matawan, without having a full escrow summary of what it's going to cost. How much has it already cost for the borough engineer's work, tremendous amount of work he's already done. And the escrow account should be analyzed and documented as to how much escrow is going to be needed to cover this project application for the water permit. And we shouldn't proceed till that's in place. Again, you can't even get before the boards in other towns without the escrow calculation being in place from the engineer and being fully funded. In addition, this applicant has a real history of not following through and fully funding. A prime example of this is the Bayshore Regional Sewage Authority, which he was supposed to have funded a long time ago. Still don't know if he's funded that. So it really needs to be looked at, and you really hold off and hold the applicant's feet to the fire till the escrow is in place, so all the engineering points are in place. And also, the applicant was given a site plan approval for Mariner Village based on a number of conditions. And one of the key conditions is that he would file a site plan and would file with the county the lot 16.01, which hasn't happened. So the application notes that the borough engineer has put together lists about almost a dozen lots, and 3/4 of those lots aren't even part of Mariner Village, and in addition are not owned by the Mariner Village people. That hasn't taken place yet. So you really ought to hold off until you get lot 16.01 filed with the county integrating the site. And so for all these reasons, I suggest you not proceed with this resolution until the applicant has filed significant escrow to match the need, until the applicant has regenerated his plans in alignment with the borough engineer's recommendations. And I know the borough engineer, based on the planning board discussions, has had a tremendous challenge to get the applicant's plans to be consistent and stabilized. In addition, I look forward to the attorney's report on 3BR Distillery, which has a state license for a distillery operation with wholesale and warehousing capability, which is not permitted in the general commercial district. I got a note relative to the borough zoning officer's approval that said
Past the
it was.
consent agenda.
This is in the agenda. This was on the agenda, attorney's report.
It's not an attorney's report, Mr. Administrator, Mr. Delaney, sorry, Mr. Administrator, Mr. Delaney, I meant, reviewed it with the zoning officer, and they believe that standing with the zoning officer's decision. So there is no attorney's report on this. It was not deferred to attorneys.
Well, so you're telling me that incidentally, we could have adult entertainment if we only had 2 pole dancers, and it only took up 10% of the.
This isn't the time.
I at the last
Mr. Lane,
meeting,
like
I asked for an attorney's report.
Mr. Lane,
and
the attorney works for the governing body.
And I had the impression from the last meeting that you were going to have the attorney give a
No,
report.
Absolutely not. At the last meeting, I said that you didn't have a right to ask the attorney to report to you, and that if Jay felt he needed to run it up the pole that level, then he would.
And so you're saying going forward, incidental things can be added.
Mr. Lane, do you
in
have
the
anything
general-
else that's on the agenda?
I have one other thing.
Thank you.
Under new business, I forwarded to the council members today, there's on the agenda, there's fracking infrastructure. There's a letter that discussion be expanded to take into account that the Transco pipeline for the 30-inch gas pipeline application is before the state agencies again, and the borough needs to really take fast action to get their opposition to that documented as you have done in the 2 previous applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Marla, you were next.
Yes. Good evening. John Merla, 34 Broad Street, Keyport. Just a couple of questions regarding the resolutions that have obviously been spoken about before. Resolution 9921. One of my concerns is that where are we charging that fee to? Is that coming out of the water sewer account? Is that coming out of the general fund? How are we funding that expenditure?
Jay, I'll defer to you, but it should be coming out of water sewer.
Well, this is,
I can't hear you, Mr.
We lost
Wait,
you, Jay.
sorry. I muted myself. I forgot. Sorry. Go ahead.
that is a water sewer expenditure. It'll be charged to the water sewer utility.
Okay, so when the borough adopts an ordinance to resurface the street and we create that bond, you'll charge that to the bond and reimburse the water sewer account?
It depends on the extent of the improvement.
Okay.
Sometimes there are utility improvements that are incidental to the road work, and they would be paid through the bond. But if the extent of the utility work is such that it warrants a separate funding source, it would be charged directly to that funding source.
Okay.
Mr. Merlo, just to your point, there's already been a $500,000 appointed by the governing body last year for
Okay.
Church Street, in addition to the 220 approximate. So that project is already at upwards of $750,000.
Okay.
But
Thank
the
you.
part of that was soft costs of engineer studies of water and sewer of that road.
Thank you. Resolution 101-21, the change order. A little bit of a problem. Obviously, the change order came after the job. If the job was done right, we wouldn't have had the change order. I'm really opposed to spending $52,000 in a change order after we spent nearly $5 million on a water plant improvement. And like I said, some of the things that happened to that facility incurred while we were trying to start it up, during the startup, and after the startup. So to me, that wasn't the borough's fault. It was the contractor, the inspectors, the engineers, and whoever else was involved. I'm not going to blame the borough, but I also think the borough shouldn't be responsible for paying $52,000 change order after the job was accepted. And, you know, we're stuck again because we're in a no-win situation We have to pay it. I understand because the work was done. However, if the work was done right, there wouldn't have been a change order. Just my thought. The other thing is under new business, Mr. Straub brought up earlier about the netting, and I had brought it up at the last meeting or the meeting before that I thought it was a good idea to put up netting on Main Street ball field only to avoid a lawsuit. If the ball went over the fence and hit one of the kids on the skate park, which can be done, believe me, some of those girls can hit that over very easily over that fence. However, he brought up a good point. He said if we put signs maybe around, alerting people. Well, let's just think about this for a second. There's 6 garbage cans up on Main Street ball field, between the ball field and the skate park. There's 4 signs that say no garbage allowed, no bottles, no drinking, no eating, no food. Now, if people were paying attention to them signs, we wouldn't need the garbage cans. So it's just food for thought. I think the borough should go forward with the netting to protect ourselves. People see signs, it also says, pick up after your dog on the waterfront. When the snow melted, we've seen what that looked like. I'm just bringing it to your attention. I think it protects the borough to put up the netting. That's it. Thank you on the agenda item.
Thank you. Ms. Wright?
Hello, this is Tina Wright, 374 Broad Street, Keyport. Also the president of the Kiwanis Club. I'm just going to say that, like I said, I'm new this year to the presidency, and I did have a meeting with Mayor Council and Mr. Delaney, and I took their concerns back, and I'm willing to move forward, address all those, even to the point where if I have to remove the garbage myself, because it's very critical. We not only do the scholarships, the monies that we do raise, it helps out both Keyport High School, Central School, CERT program, cadets, a lot of money goes back into the town of Keyport, and it's just something very vital that flea market goes on, and it's not just the scholarship that we give once a year to one student other than Keyport, being Union Beach. So like I said, if I have to remove the garbage myself, clean up whatever needs to be done, I'm willing to do that. That's how important it is.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Did you take the opportunity over the last 3 weeks since we met or speak to any of the board members that have the 6 years history of the ongoing situations? And we had sat down with a previous administrator with them 3 years ago and suggested alternate locations as well. And now during a public health emergency, I'm sure you can understand that our tax-paying businesses there, 2 weekends ago on a Sunday, there wasn't an open spot in that lot. So outdoor dining and tailgating is critical for our businesses to survive right now. And I had suggested maybe some other locations you guys can look into this year, maybe on the school property, school parking lot, football field, town and country diner, stop and shop.
Yeah.
Were any of those discussed?
Yes. Yeah, we had a discussion of alternate locations. It's just that we haven't got any feedback yet, but I did bring that to their attention, and they were looking into alternate locations, but nothing concrete that I can report today.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
No problem. Any other members of the public on the phone line? Please hit *6 if you need to unmute yourself. I'll go back through again, check the video if anyone's waving their hand. I have a motion close to the public.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. Now we'll go on to mayor's updates. There's definitely been an improvement in accessibility to our residents receiving vaccines. There's a little bit of a reprieve on that after the first 3 months of the year were extremely turbulent on trying to get our residents that were qualifiable at that point to get vaccines. Again, I thank Madeline Costello, Jay Delaney, Councilman Davidson, and Councilwoman McNamara for your continued efforts and assisting me with trying to get our seniors vaccinated in the high rises and our members of the community with disabilities. As you all know, more classifications are opening up this week, and we in the state of New Jersey as a whole are receiving more vaccines. However, we are still in a public health emergency, and our numbers in Keyport are still indicative of people still needing to follow guidelines and protocols a little while longer until more people are able to receive vaccines. We definitely had a spike in the last 3 weeks that was extremely concerning. We understand that there's members of the public that have different opinions as to the pandemic and the guidelines, but it's our due diligence to put information out there when we receive it. This public health emergency is not over yet. With that said, I did have the opportunity to meet with the American Legion monthly meeting last week, and I did inform them that hopefully by the middle of April, we will be able to schedule our next Veterans Initiative Committee. So we're looking forward to that, looking forward to a lot of things that have been tabled for the last 15 months while we work through pandemic efforts to getting movement back underground. I will also point out that on the agenda tonight is the budget introduction. And take a moment to remind everyone that's on the call tonight that taxes are collected and they're broken down. The largest recipient is the school district. I don't have my pie chart in front of me right now, but it's upwards of 55% of your property tax that is collected through the borough is given right over to the school district. Another portion is provided to the county. We are beneficiaries of that as well because we have so many county roads in our municipality. And then we're left with the remaining portion of the budget to do a lot of things. Some of that is also taken out and given directly to the library. We have to fund our police department, our DPW, our construction office, our inspectors, finance department, our administration department, senior center, recreation programming, maintain all municipal roadways, water, sewer, fire hydrant lines, and all the borough buildings. It is extensive. I've said this over the years. We have our due diligence and accountability to fulfill the needs of all of those things first. Our employees deserve proper working conditions, not ceilings pouring on them. The borough building, the police department still has rain pouring in every time it rains. Their ceilings are vetted with tarps that go to 55-gallon garbage cans. This has been a 15-year problem. I understand it's not this year's problem, but we have to make it our problem and we have to fix it. We also support things, and it's our due diligence to support things such as the fire department and the first aid, because they provide valuable service to the borough. at a volunteer rate, which is basically free for them. But if we can assist them, then we should. American Legion is a nonprofit entity. However, they provide services for us as well. They hold our Veterans Day ceremony, our Memorial Day ceremonies. We provide enormous amount of support for KBBC. We provide a temperature-controlled office for them, office space, storage downstairs in the basement. They have access to our tax assessor, our tax collector, and oftentimes they utilize borough employees to assemble picnic tables, to install things, to move tables, to move planters. We also have a lot of different things throughout the municipality that are brought in from different organizations, and then we're left to maintain them. It's great that we have beautiful gardens. I appreciate the work of the garden club members for doing all the plantings. KBBC pays for all the plantings. And then the borough is left with the bill of watering it because none of the business owners wanted to water them. So that is going to be a several thousand expense in the landscaper contract, in addition to all the mulching expenses. All of these things add up. There's continuous things that we're told all the time we don't have money to fund. The back municipal lot and behind Old Gloria McDonald's is the least welcoming parking lot in the entire municipality. Butler Street, I'm hoping is going to be an added line item in the budget that has to be paved. West 2nd Street, bond ratings right now are the lowest in history, probably in the last quarter century. We should be looking into anything that we can to get a better handle on our infrastructure that we have not been maintaining. Not necessarily from us, but there was no maintenance plan built in years ago from other governing bodies. I do believe that Jay Delaney has done due diligence to try and change that ship and start being better at capital planning and plans moving forward as a whole. But we still owe due diligence to our employees that represent prior to making allocations and donations and waivers to other entities in the borough. Not that I don't support those entities privately. They're all great. The Garden Club, Historical Society, even KBBC. I volunteered on that 3 years. And the Art Society, all of those things, all of us of a governing body, I think, generously support all of their fundraising efforts from our own personal pockets. But I don't believe that it's always the proper tax entity that should be paying all and offsetting all of their expenses. So with that said, I do hope that all of the fire hydrant lines that are currently not working are also built into this budget, because our taxpayers depend on those fire hydrants to be working. I do appreciate that before they used to just put a horrible, ugly piece of cloth over any fire hydrant that wasn't functioning. I appreciate Mr. Delaney bringing in a different policy of tagging them and then working with the fire marshal to purchase bags to put over them. It's a lot. It's a better visual, but hopefully if these lines get fixed, we won't have to see the bags either. So with that said, I will now move on to the consent agenda. Do any other council members have any questions? The feedback from Councilman Good after hearing Mike Moline and Councilman Fotopoulos, do you want to table that to the next meeting? So it could be better clarified. That was the Mariners Village one, 121. Sorry, I didn't say which one.
Mayor, I would request that we pull the Mariners Village for them to submit a proper updated water plans so that we're not conditionally approving something that that Trevor has to chase them for, that, you know, maybe put the onus on them to submit it, and then Trevor tell us whether or not it's complete. Also, I would request that we pull 8921. I guess there's been the commentary with the Kiwanis. I think that there's enough questions that have been raised that I think that they've heard, and maybe we should get an appropriate response from them. So I'd ask that that be pulled.
Jay, is there any issue with pulling 121?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We're okay.
Okay, so can I have a motion to table? You want to table them and not cancel them out, right, Councilman Goodray?
Yeah, I believe that table them. I don't know that Mariners Village will be ready for the next session, but we can table it until they get it, you know, until you get it done, and then.
Oh, what are you doing?
Okay. Okay. And 8921, since we have the moratorium for things to be on hold through May 1st, anyone, they wouldn't, even if it was to get voted on and approved, they wouldn't be able to start until the moratorium was lifted anyway, which is until after May 1st. So tabling that isn't going to halt anything that already is on books for more moratorium, correct?
Okay.
Can we bring it up next meeting, Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Can we bring it up next meeting?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We'll table it to the next meeting and see if they have any feedback. I mean, we already gave them 3 weeks to come back with feedback. But we can wait till the next meeting because they wouldn't be able to start anyway. Okay, so can I have a motion to table R89 and R100?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Michelle, do you need a roll call to table? Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
and Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other dialogue from council members on the remaining resolutions before I call for approval? Can I have a motion to approve R86 through R103 with the exception of the 2 we just tabled?
Motion.
Second.
Can I please have a roll call, Michelle? That was Kathleen that seconded.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
and Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the public hearing adoption of ordinance number 2-21. To read that by title, please, Michelle.
It's ordinance 2-21. It's an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending Chapter 5 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Keyport entitled General Licensing and Business Regulations at Section 5-12, Games of Chance.
Just to give a quick synopsis of what this was about and why we have this on the agenda. Previously, any of the nonprofits that want, or anyone actually, that wanted to have a chance or 50/50 license, the ordinance stipulated that all had to be approved by the governing body prior to the clerk signing off to send it to the state. A lot of times that kind of puts a block if we have 3 weeks between meetings like we just had, because then they can't get approval to move it forward. So this is to authorize the clerk to be able to approve those. And then once she does approve them, I believe the understanding from Mr. Delaney and Michelle is that they're going to list any approvals in their clerk reports so that we still have an idea of events that are happening throughout the borough. Correct, Michelle and Jay? Is that the proper summary?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Any council members have any questions before we open to the public? Can I have a motion open to the public for the hearing of this ordinance change?
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll do the same. We'll go through video first. Any members of the public have any questions? If you can raise your hand if you're on video. Okay, any phone line members? If you can unmute yourself by hitting *6.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, this is Tina Wright again. What would be my next steps to do now?
Sorry, we're in the middle of a public hearing right now. This would
Oh,
be, this is only commentary for the ordinance change.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a motion to adopt ordinance 2-21.
Motion.
Please have a roll call.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
and Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as adopted?
Motion.
On favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Okay, next we have the introduction of ordinances. Number 1, the first one tonight is the COLA rate ordinance. Michelle, do you want to read that one by title, please?
This is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank according to NJSA 40A:4-45 and 14.
Thank you. I don't see Tom Fallon. Tom Fallon, are you on a phone line? I don't know if he needed to be. Okay, this is just the introduction. Okay, please have a motion to introduce.
Motion.
Second.
Have a roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco, Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes. You hear me?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
and Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in Asbury Park Press for a public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstain or no? Thank you. Second ordinance tonight is placing a stop sign on Beers Street, an intersection of Beers and Clark Street. Michelle, if you can read the ordinance by title.
This is an ordinance amending Chapter 7A of the Borough Code entitled Traffic Schedules at Schedule 11 Stop Intersections to designate the intersection of Beer Street and Clark Street within the Borough of Keyport as a stop intersection.
Just to give a quick summary on this one, this is over behind Tom's Ford. That is a intersection that half of the road belongs to Hazlet and half of the road belongs to Keyport. This has been a topic for several years with previous administrators, and I commend Chief Torres for moving this forward. It's a intersection that there's often accidents at. And because they're coming off the highway, sometimes it's a high rate of speed. So to slow traffic down in that area and to hopefully reduce the amount of accidents over there. That is so that we can turn that to a four-way stop sign. Chief Torres is on the call unless she has any other commentary or if any additional points.
No, Mayor, I don't. Thank you.
Mayor, do we have data on the accidents for that?
I don't have a list of how many accidents. I guess we would have to do a multiple town.
It's a high volume accident area, Chief Torres. That's all I was going to ask, because I remember when we were doing Complete Streets, that didn't jump out at me, but if it is, yeah.
A lot of people feel that
I'm
that's
sorry, not
hazardous.
only
They
is
kind
it
of
high
forget that's
volume,
sport.
but it's a deadly accident area because of the fast pace of traffic coming from the highway.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Also, I think it's important to note that I believe Hazlet had a similar ordinance on their agenda at some point, either before or after ours, for their side of the street, for their stop sign.
Right, they're doing this as a joint effort. This had been discussed for several years, so again, thank you, Chief Torres, for making this happen. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, please have a roll call, Michelle.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for a public hearing?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes or abstain? Thank you. Next, I have introduction of 2021 municipal budget. Resolution R104-21, introducing the 2021 municipal budget. If you can read the by title, please.
This is the municipal budget of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey for the year 2021.
Thank you.
Mayor, before the council considers the introduction of the ordinance, I know this is not the public hearing, but it is worth noting.
Can't hear you, Jay.
My fault again. Sorry, I keep forgetting I can't mute when he's talking. Go ahead, John.
Mayor, just indicating that the public hearing on the ordinance will be scheduled for May 4th.
There's an echo now.
The budget introduction, just a couple of brief comments. The budget as presented reflects a decrease of about $650,000 in spending compared to last year. Admittedly, most of that decrease is related to grants that at this point in time have been unconfirmed. Additionally, last year, the borough was in receipt of a substantial amount of funding for COVID-related NPNP program, as well as the Monmouth County COVID CARES program. The budget reflects a tax increase of approximately $72,000, a 1% increase in the amount to be raised from taxes. Additionally, it is worth noting that the borough of Keyport in total saw an increase in the taxable value of properties of about 4.5%.
There is a substantial echo. Can we?
Hold on 1 second. I don't have any other.
I'm actually on the phone.
Oh, you called in? Oh,
Phone number 1047, that's
as I indicated, the assessment value of the average residential property.
Now we can't hear you.
I think using the mayor's mic is the best thing.
Yeah.
All right, as
All right,
I
as I indicated
earlier, the average assessment,
That number has to be muted. Michelle. Okay. Go ahead.
10:47.
Yeah, we're good. You're good. Wait, you guys keep muting and muting you. All right, go ahead, Jay.
the difficulty of being in the same room. In any event, the average residential property in the borough of Keyport saw an increase of about 4.5%. The net result is that the increase in the amount of taxes paid by the average residential property owner will be approximately $40 more this year than last year. Again, the details will be presented in full during the public hearing. Once the budget is posted and available for public review, questions and comments will be entertained at the public hearing scheduled for May 4th.
Thank you. Did we get confirmation as to why there was no line item at all for the Monmouth County CARES Act money that was received?
That was a question that you raised earlier this week. I do not have an answer for that, but I will.
Okay, thank you. Because that's important to reflect on all the money that we did receive from the county last year, so that people know how we offset a lot of the expenses last year, including, if something didn't get submitted through Monmouth County CARES Act, and it's reimbursable, then it should be being submitted through FEMA for reimbursement, since we're still in a public health emergency. But it also is important that once we finally get answers of what was submitted and reimbursed for, that we show proper due diligence and record keeping of what we provided our emergency services, because that's upward of probably, I don't know, $80,000 worth of equipment. So that should be noted somewhere, the CPR machines, the fit test machine, that right there is $45,000. So we should have that recorded somewhere.
Yes, and Mayor, I suspect that the reason it is not reflected in the budget document is that the Monmouth program, I believe, was characterized as a reimbursement program, not a grant program. But again, we will provide the specific answer during the hearing report.
Thank you.
Mayor? Just point of clarification, because of the sound issues that were occurring with Jay. That 4% he referred to is a increase in the townwide assessed value, is it not?
That's correct.
And that's the ADP program that Monmouth County's part of that had increased it by 4%, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we didn't raise taxes 4%.
No, and I will reiterate that the amount to be raised by taxation is going up just over 1%.
Right.
Is that good, Councilman Fidopoulos?
Thank you, Mayor.
Could I please have a motion to introduce the 2021 municipal budget?
Motion.
Second.
Can I please have a roll call, Michelle?
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
and Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the budget summary as introduced for a public hearing to be held on May 4th, 2021?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or no? Thank you. Next, we have the introduction of 2021 Keyport bid and incorporated budget. Resolution R-10521, introducing the 2021 Keyport Business Improvement District, otherwise known as KBBC budget. You can read the title.
This is the Keyport Bayfront Business Cooperative 2021 budget.
Thank you. And a quick summary is that they are not asking for any increase in percentages and to hold the same request that was submitted last year. Can I please have a motion to introduce?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson. Councilmember Davidson?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McNamara?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the budget summary as introduced for a public hearing to be held May 4th, 2021?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those are abstains. Okay, thank you. Next, we move to communications by consent. Number 1 through 5 are for approval. And number 6 is to receive and file. Do we have any questions? Actually, I'd like to take a minute to talk about number 5. This request had come forward. There had previously been signs put up that were not adopted by an ordinance about no parking Tuesday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Those signs weren't valid and had been taken down in that area. However, if they are not able to pull in and do an early morning delivery for the large tractor trailer for Family Dollar, then if they do an afternoon delivery, it just backs up traffic because they're double parked and it just becomes a logistical nightmare for the police department and any visitors or residents or other business owners. So Chief Torres, Jay Delaney, myself walked over to that area after receiving the request. And the consensus is if they can get in early in the morning and out and they have one loading zone, it would just better the flow of traffic. So I just want to provide that commentary on that one.
Do we know who put up the signs?
We're still looking into that. That was put up several years ago. That's one of the signs that I used to sit on a table down there as a resident and ask for about 2 years why those signs are, how those signs put up since they contradict the signs above them.
I only just remember the one in Atlantic and Second. That was.
I know
my favorite.
that was another 2-year one. 15-minute parking on a fire hydrant, yellow curb.
I just have a question. I mean, when do we street clean? I thought we street clean at 6 in the morning. I don't know what day of the week that is, but would this
That was
interfere
part
with
of the
street cleaning?
challenge. So that sign was put up supposedly for the street sweeper, but no one really knew how to interpret it. Some thought it said Tuesday and Friday. Some said that a hyphen means an and, hyphen means a through, but it contradicts the sign above it for the 3-hour parking. So this would enable them to put a loading zone sign up from 6 to 9 on Wednesdays. Chief Torres, did you have any other commentary, or do you want to just discuss how much it burdens the police department when they try and do deliveries during other out times? Oh, sorry. Chief Torres, did you want to comment on anything about the request or if it is burdensome when they're doing deliveries at other time?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I can just tell you just from what the officers experience on the road and seeing it myself, when someone's double parked, it's not hard to see the problem that it causes on West Front Street, specifically if it's a large truck. It causes a traffic jam that affects not only the bus routes coming through, but it affects the whole town. It can cause a traffic jam that can jam up Broad Street all the way into the highway into Aberdeen at times. So we're constantly trying to chase them out. Depending on how big of a delivery they have, we have to find the driver and try to get him or her back to their truck as soon as possible. So it definitely causes issues with we definitely are in need of this loading zone and this time frame. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, just more of a question. Are we able to do this via consent by letter as opposed to an ordinance change? This probably goes to Leslie.
I had asked Jay that, and I think because we're trying to clean up all of the parking ordinance too in the parking committee. Jay, you felt that a letter request was okay for now?
Yeah, typically, loading zones are designated by ordinance. But if there's approval to move ahead with this, then we will immediately.
Right.
So are you saying we'll do a letter for now and then an ordinance change later, but this gets it in place for now? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Councilman Good, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so any further discussion?
Question?
Yes.
So in regards to the Historical Society letter, it's just a request. So does that mean that we're just approving their request for the additional funds and then that'll be discussed further when it comes time for the budget, being as a line item there? How does that work?
No, this is on the agenda for an approval, which means that would already have to find funding in the budget. So that could be pulled separate for a different vote if you'd like.
I have a suggestion. We can just postpone table this letter until the budget hearing when we discuss it.
Okay. So we're gonna have a motion to table item number 4.
Motion.
But Councilman Patapoulos, that'll be to the May meeting, correct? Not the next meeting.
Sure, yeah,
May, right?
yeah, because it's as you said, it's a line item in the budget, so probably makes sense to discuss it then. And this way, representatives from the Historical Society can be present as well.
So we have a motion. Did we get a second? Sorry.
Second.
All in favor? Do we have to roll call that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Abstain.
Did you hear Dennis abstained? Okay. So there's no further conversation for items 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, and 5 would be for approval. Number 6 is receive and file. Can I please have a motion?
Motion.
By consent.
Second.
Roll call, please, Michelle.
Councilmember Good.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos.
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott.
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson. And Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you. Minutes for approval. We have March 2nd, 2021, March 9th, 2021. Does everyone, can they all vote on both? Can they all vote on both? Okay. I'm not sure. Obviously, you guys all know who was there for attendance and who can vote. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please, and this will be for both sets of minutes.
Councilmember Good,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
I say yes to March 2nd, but I'm gonna abstain from March 9th since I was a little late for that meeting.
okay. Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
Yes.
Councilmember Davidson,
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have several new business items. First is the 2021 seasonal boat ramp permits. I believe Councilwoman Pacheco, you want to discuss this?
Yes, Councilman McNamara can back me up. The Harbor Commission had questions about the boat ramp permits, whether or not we would be able to just extend the boat ramp permits for the people who had bought them in 2020. And I thought I'd bring that up to the discussion of the council.
What was the request?
Wasn't it to basically renew the 2020 permits?
So extend last year's permit through this year, but there was no limited to the boat ramp. We actually gave them extra parking last year. That was the only parking lots that were open and fully operational through the whole season. I know we had considered something for the senior center, but that's because the members didn't have access to the senior center for 9 months of the year. So we know what the rationalization is of why did they feel they didn't get service to the boat ramp last year?
That was the thought of the Harbor Commission, yes, but of course, that's why we're bringing it to the full council for us all to discuss.
Okay, I just didn't know if you knew what they were saying they didn't receive service of.
The request, I mean, I understand what you're saying because the boat ramp was used a lot last year, but I believe the request was COVID related.
Okay. Any council members have any commentary on this?
I just have some concerns with this because there's still repairs and things that we still need to maintain on the boat ramp. And from my understanding, I thought we need to actually replace the entire boat ramp because something happened to it this season. Given that recreational and outdoor activities are going to be at the highest peak, given COVID still going to continue, we also need to look at this as a revenue opportunity to maintain and sustain our waterfront. So I would deter away from this, waiving this.
Are we just talking about seasonal? We were just talking about seasonal, right?
Seasonal passes.
How many do we have?
Not many. I'm actually looking that number up right now. I had it in an email. It's the seasonal passes. Obviously, the kiosk would stay in effect so people could buy their daily passes. I don't think there's that many. I'm looking right now. I know I have it in an email.
I think that
It's less than 100. It might even be less than 50.
was the boat ramp closed for a certain amount of time last year, but my recollection is thin on that.
Oh, I'm looking.
My understanding,
we closed the parking lot for a little while, right, Mayor?
So the boat ramp was closed for a brief period of time, but not long. And,
I remember it being
I don't.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
That's okay. But then when we did reconsider the parking lot situations, what we did is we allocated that and the museum area for all boat ramp parking so that there was no vehicle parking in there. It was just boat ramp.
I think that happened in May, right?
Yeah, there was a
couple of months.
If that.
Maybe since that I'd like to, before I say anything else, I wouldn't mind knowing how many boat ramp seasonal passes we have.
I am.
And Councilman Pacheco, how much do we charge again for the annual fee? Refreshment.
I can answer that. So for residents, it's $90 for the year, or for the season, if you will, and a daily pass is 20. So once somebody goes 5 times, it's obviously they're ahead of the game. And I think that the non-resident is 140.
Am I muted? It's 180. I'm looking for the number. It's not many that have this pass, the seasonal pass. I know Patty had emailed it to me. Oh, wait, I have it. What was the breakdown? 10, 4, 6, 17.
That's how many passes were paid for, or that's how many passes were issued? Because don't forget, our volunteers don't
Annual
pay
passes that were
for-
paid for. 10 residents, 4 non-residents, 2 volunteers, so the volunteer and 1 veteran resident.
And
volunteers are not paid for.
right. And if I can add one other thing, in a conversation I did have with Patty, she said the phone calls she's getting are people who just want to buy their new annual pass. So it wasn't necessarily anybody asking for an extension. They just, want the process to get going so they can get a new pass for this year.
Yes.
Right, so there's no official request from pass holders, correct?
No, this is coming from the Harbor Commission.
So unless someone has a motion to want to waive fees, then we'll go on to the next topic.
Motion. To waive fees for the 15 current, well, I was gonna say 17 for the people who are renewing boat passes for last year. Those 15 people, because obviously the 2 volunteers would still not pay.
Can I make an amendment to the motion?
Can I just, can I say something? We just had
Yes, we
people
would have a
renew.
motion on the floor, so we would either need to
Okay.
second or scratch that motion and have discussion, or have a second and then
I'm willing to hear that.
discussion.
I believe Councilman Fatopoulos had an amendment.
That we cover for last year's 2 months lost. Those that are renewing, we just charge a certain percentage less. I was quickly trying to figure out what the percentage
You're
was.
saying prorate to 2 months. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
just reduce it by, just reduce their cost, and, basically discount it 2 months. So they'll get 2 months free this year.
Is the boat pass for the full year?
Now they can use it anytime they want.
I mean, because I know we didn't even have the boat ramp usually, until May anyway. So we didn't delay it from when the floats go in.
So there was no membership delay. They typically, I remember when I was getting my boat ramp pass, I got it in March.
Yeah. That sounds
But
good.
I don't know what,
What I'm saying though is, as far as it being operational from the borough's point, it's usually May that they put in the dock.
right, but right now,
Anyone could go put a boat in.
yeah, okay, but so anyone can put a boat in without a permit, is what you're saying?
No, if you are putting a boat in, you need to purchase a permit at the kiosk or have your annual boat ramp pass.
Year
You're
round,
parking your trailer there.
Correct.
because striper season's been going on for a month already. So they've been dropping their boat in there, actually moving around the debris. So, what about the 2 months? What are we talking 2 months?
If it works out, if it's $90 annually, then it works out to $15, $7.50 per month if we break it down by 12, if that's how it annually works, which would be 12.
Right. Okay.
I'm okay with that amendment.
Then I second.
Can we just clarify what the amendment was?
To reduce, to give current pass holders, of which there were, by my count, 12 or 13 or 18, a reduction of 2 months, 2 months free, to give them 2 months free to cover the 2 months they didn't get last year.
It's
I have a motion and a second. We need a roll call, please.
Councilmember Good,
No.
Councilmember Pacheco,
yes.
Councilmember Fotopoulos,
Yes.
Councilmember McDermott,
No.
Councilmember Davidson,
No.
Councilmember McNamara, Councilmember
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. No.
Motion doesn't carry.
Carry.
Thank you. Ball field netting. There's been different conversations about this, different viewpoints. Councilwoman McNamara, do you want to provide an
I'll try to
update
give
on that, please?
clarification. So when the skate park was done, towards the end of that, there was some work done on putting up some netting. And when that came up at Recreation, I backtracked with Mr. Delaney to try to find out more information. And we were provided with some paperwork that estimated the cost of netting at $12,000. Upon further examination, that $12,000 is only for a 60-foot length of netting. So it could potentially cover the area in front of the playground, not quite to the flagpole. It certainly would not be that distance at that cost, would not afford any coverage to the skate park. So that's one part. The other part is the only permitted use at that field right now is by the girls' central school. And I was told last night on the Board of Ed call, not on the Board of Ed, on the recreation call, that the girls do not do batting during their practice there. So that's pretty much all the information I have in terms of any legitimate use of us being able to permit it out at all. It's too small even to be a legal Little League field. It would have to be restricted to T-ball if we did do any kind of permitting, because at the deepest, the field is 140 feet and Little League would have to be a minimum of 200. So that's some background as to, I will say I went and sat at the park the other day and I sat at the picnic table right by the flagpole, and the new playground and that seat are closer than the old setup. But again, I don't know of any prior situations where anything went over that fence.
Jay, you followed up with the insurance company and they did not require any netting, correct?
That's correct. The field is not designated for, as Councilwoman McNamara has indicated, it is not considered a baseball field for Little League or for softball. It is designated and was designed as a T-ball field. No netting has been recommended or required from the insurance carrier.
Okay. Councilman Good, you're on recreation. Do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Councilwoman Pacheco?
Anecdotally, that is one of my favorite parks. I enjoy that playground. My daughter does too. That playground is very close to the field, and I actually watched some boys, I'm guessing that they were on the baseball team, but high school age, play a pickup game and almost hit the ball out of the field a couple times. Now, if we want to research some cheaper options, that's fine, but I do think that there is a concern there that even people just playing a straight up pickup game might be able to hit the ball into the playground area. Skate park seems a little far.
Jay, is there funding available for the $12,000 estimate that was proposed, and does that include installation?
That is why I said perhaps we should research other options.
Jay has been researching, that's why I'm asking him.
the quoted cost for installation of the netting.
Are there other options besides?
12,000.
I honestly don't know.
So it's $12,000 for just one portion, right, as Councilwoman McNamara said?
That's correct. Approximately 60 feet of fencing, like roughly adjacent to the playground area.
Mr. Delaney, are there other
Circulate
options?
that to the council members for the next meeting so they could see the price quote. And
Mr.
then we
Delaney,
vote
can you
on
also
it.
see if there's other options besides netting? I honestly don't know if netting is the only option. It would be nice to see if there's any research on that.
I mean, Trevor prepared the report after Councilman Sheridan was asking at the breaking ground of the park, so it's an engineer's recommendation. He's still on if you'd like him to comment.
Yeah, Mayor, I think the other alternative would obviously be a chain link fence, 20-foot high chain link fence, which is going to be, in my opinion, more expensive than the netting, just based on the footing and foundation and size of the posts that you would need to support a 20-foot high fence. So I think the netting is actually the cheaper alternative, and we've seen that that's used in many places. You know, if you want, we could reach out to a couple contractors between now and I'm not sure when the next meeting is, but just get a real price from a contractor so you can have a little bit more information at the next meeting.
Thank you, Trevor.
And Jay, if you can circulate the netting information to the council members, and Michelle, can we please have this listed as an item for a resolution approval for next meeting?
There a possibility of researching if the field can actually be turned the other direction so that home plate is in the further corner diagonal out in the center field? And if there is somebody who is going to be batting for practice, that the ball's at least flying towards the street and away from the playground, and a foul ball will go over their heads, but that causes a problem with the trail.
That might cost more than the netting, actually. If I can comment real quick, if that's okay, Mayor.
Sure.
The thought that I had was I actually measured the outfield, and 40 feet will cover 40 feet of netting will cover the playground. I think, did you say that already, Councilwoman McNamara?
I thought that it was 70 to do the playground and to the flagpole.
Correct. It was
that
70,
table, that table right there.
just over the 60 feet that we quoted, of course.
Right. But it shouldn't be, I don't think it would be that significantly different, but.
But the other thing we should do too, just to make sure we clarify, is we can name it the Main Street T-ball field for starters, so everybody and everybody knows that it's only for T-ball. And just for the record too, T-ball should also include, because this is the way Little League, the way the young ones do it, is it should also include coach pitch as well. That should be okay. I don't want to restrict it just to T-ball, so to speak. But you know, there are ways we can deal with this. I think, you know, I'm looking forward to getting the netting quote. And my understanding is that if it's at the $12,000, we should be able to do that.
I have a question, Councilman Fatalis. Would that stop the pickup games? Because I mean, it was great to watch them play, but that was when I had the concern, was that they were, you know, just messing around playing a pickup game and were able to just knock it over the fence. So would that just stop them from being able to play on the field if we designate it that way?
You had said that they didn't quite hit it over the fence, though, right?
Being close. I mean,
yeah, right. So I mean, if
they were not messing around as much, they probably would have.
I think the netting would help in that case, but that's our you know, Councilwoman Davidson is also in the neighborhood, so to speak. That's our neighborhood field over there. I see people all the time playing pickup. You know, mothers and fathers pitching to their kids, practicing, having a catch. At its best, the field is in great condition. It can use some more clay and everything. It can use an upgrade in some of the field quality, but I'd hate to see that field not be a baseball field or a t-ball field like it's always been intended. I've only ever seen with leagues t-ball there, and those were years ago. That hasn't occurred in a long time for
It
whatever
looked like it
reason.
was a league. It looked like it might have been kids on the baseball team, but like they were just playing. And that was my concern. It was like, wow, if one of them catches the ball the right way, it's going to go right over the fence into the playground.
I'm glad that it's still a ball field. I think we can find I think the path to yes is probably going to be a net, but I thank the Recreation Commission and the liaisons for their work on this. Thank you, Matt and Kathleen.
And if I can just add a final, I do think, because my kids are older now, but that new playground is definitely closer to the ball field than the old one. There is no doubt.
Yeah.
There is zero protection. The skate park has that, at least 7-foot fence there. So I do think that there have been a fair amount of residents who have voiced concerns. And as I said, sitting there the other day, I felt like, wow, if there were people playing here, I would have to be really paying attention to any hit that happened.
Yeah.
And as you know, I forwarded the commentary to you and Councilman Fotopoulos, and it's been a year of dialogue from Councilman Sheridan bringing this up, almost a year and a half. So that's why I'm asking for this to finally just be on an agenda so we can move this forward with a vote or not.
Real quick I'm sorry, to Councilwoman McNamara's point, the more than 7-foot high fence for the skate park means that somebody from home plate would have to arc that ball about 200 feet at least to get it into the skate park, just as a point of information.
Yeah, it's not the skate park. I'm with Councilman McNamara. It's the playground. Like the top of the slide is like right there. As somebody who's been at the top of the slide.
Next on the agenda, we have the virtual arts tour. Circulated a letter that was sent to a resident who's the president of the Art Society. I just want to make sure there's buy-in from the municipality. I don't think there would be a no, but it would be something the creative team is going to be working on anyway, creating a art inventory. And then when they're done, Monmouth County is offering to do a virtual art tour.
I think this is a great idea, and I'm glad that we got the email and more power to them.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. So this is going to be branded on behalf of Keyport, not the Art Society, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Why can't it be both?
What's the issue if it being branded by the Art Society?
Both.
Because it's about a municipal inventory of what's out
Oh,
throughout.
I thought we were talking about the virtual arts tour. Not.
Well, isn't it, they're creating the artwork for the virtual tour. Am I not? Is that not what this is about? But it's concurrent.
The inventory, the inventory is part of the Green Team's task. It's not the Art Society, if I'm not mistaken. So I
Not
think
the Art Society at all.
Right,
And it's not the Green Teams either. It's something Michelle is creating on her own. It has nothing to do with either entity. And then she's appointing her own members, and we're appointing one from the borough, which is what we approved earlier. She's going to take that and create an inventory.
My understanding.
Monmouth County holds 2 different municipalities of the art inventory. So we could identify the address of like the murals over here on Main Street or the other murals that MPP put up, that the Art Society didn't have anything to do with those art exhibits. So it's by the municipality. In the email, there were 2 other towns that were referenced that the county is doing. This is all from Monmouth County. So it was all in the email and communication.
That was Spring Lake and Belmar were the 2 municipalities.
And the reason I'm asking for clarification is that during the legal municipalities, there is an acknowledgement of the borough or town or township that does this. It is not a specific organization that gets recognition for it. That's why I'm clarifying.
Understood.
Any other commentary on that one? I just circulated that for you guys, had it. Next, we have the open letter to call for an end to fracking and fracking infrastructure, which I also circulated to you guys. Any commentary on that or any further commentary on Mr. Lane's comments? Councilman McNamara?
I'll comment on Mr. Lane's part because I had, as a resident citizen, been involved in some of that Williams Transco FERC meetings. And, I appreciated when the borough did make a resolution about that. So I would like to see continuation, at least on the Williams Transco part. I believe this one that we got was the Delaware Basin. I'm not as familiar with that, and I don't know if anybody has opinions on that.
Anyone have commentary on that? Okay. Next, isn't listed on the agenda, but we had said at the last council meeting that you guys wanted to do a review at each council meeting. Right now, the moratorium holds till May 1st for any borough use of property. Do we just want to revisit that at the next council meeting? Or does anyone have any thoughts now of extending or? Councilman Good?
I think we should revisit this at the next council meeting. But considering the weather is getting nicer, I think while the numbers are getting worse, the outdoor activities, depending upon what they are, may be able to be worked in. But again, this is kind of on a week-to-week basis. So I'll say,
So just leave
the
May.
next one.
Okay. Anyone, any council members opposed to that? I know there's a lot of members of the public are hoping we can move on to the next topic anyway. Okay, next we have legalization of recreation marijuana. This is opportunity for public comment. Just for the public to be aware, we had chosen last month's first meeting of the month because those are usually shorter meetings because there's no committee reports. But there weren't many members of the public. So I know Councilman Fotopoulos, I worked with Councilwoman McNamara about circulating and promoting. We obviously, when we put this on, we didn't know that it was going to be 2 hours before we got to public unfinished business. So without further ado, this is so that our governing body can hear input from the public before moving forward to decide which way they would want to have further discussions amongst themselves and potentially form a council committee to work on this. But it's hard for them to do that if they don't have opportunity to hear from the public. So what I'm going to do first is ask for a motion to open to the public. This is only
Motion.
regarding the recreational.
Second.
Thank you. We're going to do a video first. If you're on the call this evening and wish to comment regarding the 6 different categories of opportunities or legislation possibilities, raise your hand, Mr. Kelsey.
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's Place. I'm going to present a little bit behind me. So for everybody to see better or would like to see better, if you hover over my image here and click the ellipses and click pin, that should make my face nice and big. Just a second here.
You say? What did you say?
I'm going to present behind me. So if you just
No, but how did you suggest for people to do what?
hover over my image, my video, and click the ellipses that shows up, and then click pin.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You could also change it to speaker view as well on the top right-hand side of your screen.
True.
Okay, so at the last meeting, let me pointer here. At the last meeting that we spoke about this, or the council had spoken about this, someone had mentioned having the distance, if allowed, being 1,000 feet from the school or the 500 feet from other buildings. So what I did was created a map just to demonstrate how that would impact where these businesses could be allowed. And as you can see, these salmon, light pink color, that's the 1,000 feet from a school. This see-through orange color is the 500 feet from parks and other similar types of like museums that fall under that statute for the enhanced penalties for drugs. That really doesn't leave a lot of area in Keyport that it would be allowed if we stuck to those numbers. So if you really, for those that are interested in having this allowed in Keyport, consider different distances and don't rely on this strictly, because as it is now, you're basically, you would not allow it at all. So you might as well not even, you might as well just disallow everything. Also, it was mentioned that these businesses should be only allowed on the highway, which I disagree with. I think we should allow, the retail class to be allowed in downtown Keyport. But if you did only allow on the highway, you have no areas that really it can fit with this type of restriction. So I want to point that out. As far as what classes, I think every class should be allowed in the borough. I don't see a downside to that. Obviously, a lot of the other classes aside from the retail class would be, stuck to the, industrial or light industrial areas zoning. I think that makes sense. But as far as downtown, I see no reason why you wouldn't allow a retail shop that dispenses. We have, a number of bars in town. I don't see what would be wrong with people purchasing packaged items. Something that was not discussed at the last meeting was the option for consumption. I know that there was concern mentioned about the odors being released. And I think with the consumption, you could disallow outdoor if you don't want, the odors, which I can't disagree with. I mean, we have a lot of residences that butt up against the commercial district in town and stuff. And even if it was cigarette smoking, that certainly wouldn't be pleasant to constantly have in your yard. But even the indoors, as best I can tell, it would be similar requirements as for ventilation as cigar bars would have. So that's already releasing the smoke and odor out of the building. It just might be a challenge to stay on top of that and make sure that's controlled. And that's really it. I mean, I'll just wrap it up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graham? Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Graham, please? No. No.
Can you hear me?
Now you can, yes.
Okay. Anyway, Elmer Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. If you're going to allow marijuana shops in Keyport and stuff like that, just in the process, unfortunately, you're going to find underage kids smoking marijuana and stuff like that. But in the process, don't tie the police department's hands in enforcing it, because in Keyport they should be able to inform the kids' parents and everything like that. The state of New Jersey finally fixed that law, so and you should give the Keyport police powers to let the underage kids' parents know that they're doing marijuana and all that. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Mrs. Henning?
Hi, Jen Henning, 102 Main Street. I think my battery's going to die. I'd like to address first Mr. Graham's issue with underage kids. The data actually say contradicts that. There's no increase in youth crime or youth usage in states that have legalized marijuana. There's no crime increases in downtown areas. And the economic impact, no crime increase, no real change in motor vehicle accidents. There was some early data that said there was, but it's been stable across all the states. The economic impact, however, has been particularly in small towns. It strengthens the local economy. Has the town or the borough reached out to other towns in Massachusetts, Colorado, to talk about the economic impacts? Has there been any outreach?
Sorry, I was on mute, sorry.
That's okay.
At this point in time, they were waiting for a lot of the guidance to settle down after the January decision. And I know Ms. London has been circulating the different classes of information. And I know
Right.
each council member has been doing their own research, but as far as a collective dialogue, we're not at that point yet. But before we move forward to have that, we wanted to hear from our local.
Okay, but that when you do the research, you can reach out to small towns in Massachusetts, California, Michigan, Colorado that have gotten literally millions of dollars for infrastructure. All of the things we were talking about today that we need here, a $12,000 net, sewage replacement, road paving. And there's the impact, the social impact, the concerns of kids smoking marijuana on the street. Really, these dispensaries attract not kids, adults, people my age. I'm not me personally, but people my age with disposable income, who want to come into a town like this. It's revitalized towns like this. I think for Keyport, it would be possibly that thing that would be a springboard to for businesses down here. If you put the dispensary, the one thing that I agree with Mr. Kelsey about, you put a dispensary up on the highway and people are going to stop on that highway, pick up their marijuana and they're going to drive down to Vero Vino. They're not going to come into Keyport if it's up on the highway. If you put it someplace in downtown Keyport, the people that are going to drive in, the people that have enough money, because, legal marijuana is very expensive. So you have to have money to buy it. They're going to go to that new distillery. They're going to go to Drew's. They're going to go to McDonald's. They're going to go to Lenora's. They're going to park here and walk around town. So it increases viability of existing businesses, and also counterintuitively, and I hope people understand this, it increases property values by 8 to 10%. And also counterintuitively, the closer the dispensary is, not the further away, the closer it is to your house, the more and this is data that's documented, the higher the increase in property values, which I didn't know till I started researching it. So the distribution centers, the warehouses, that kind of thing. Sure, up on the highway in industrial areas, we don't want that traffic in here. But the dispensaries are not of much value to us if they're up on the highway. They're of value to Red Bank and Asbury Park. So I know you guys are looking at this, but I do hope as a borough you'll reach out to some of the towns that have benefited from the from getting the dispensaries in town. I'd also like to thank Mr. Kelsey, because I really didn't, that kind of data of knowing the distance and maybe needing to tweak the legislation to allow things closer, because we're such a compact town. That's something that needs to be looked at very carefully. So thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Henning. Excellent points and feedback. Thank you. And thank you for staying on the meeting to provide us.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.
Mayor, if I just make a comment,
Jamie-
just for the, thing, if you don't mind, I think that with regard to the distance, I think we're going to be, whatever, it's going to be dictated by the state, in all honesty. I think that it's, we're going to be riding whatever the state tells us we're going to do. If they say 1,000, then, we'll be in trouble, possibly based upon Andrew's chart. If they allow 500, so I think that that's something that's probably going to be out of our hands.
But if small
have
towns
you-
band, can I just respond to that? If small towns band together, there's a little more power there. So
Ms. London, have you heard any commentary from the league or from any other municipalities that we would be able to override? So if, like Councilman Good and Mrs. Henning are saying, if the state says 1,000, does it have to stay at that? Or are they giving local jurisdiction over that?
It's really not clear right now. Actually, there's a all-day seminar that I'll be going to tomorrow on this issue, on all of the issues that we're discussing today. So by the next meeting, I'm sure I'll be able to share more information.
Great, thank you. Jamie Van Skyber, if you can just state your, if I said it right, sorry. I see your hand is raised. I'll just need your address.
Yes, good evening. Jamie Van Skyver, Greenwich Avenue in Paulsboro, New Jersey.
Hold on one second. Did you get that, Michelle? Okay, great.
Good evening, Council. I'm actually with Sativa Cross. We're a nonprofit advocating for medical patients' rights. I'm also a patient, a medical cannabis patient in the state. I just want to talk to you about some of the things. 67% of the state did vote for recreation, and your numbers are similar with your constituents. There are different classifications, and maybe some of those don't fit in specific areas in your community. But just to completely put it out of access for medical patients that need this, that rely on it for symptom management, for healing, not for a good time, not for an effect, but we have endocannabinoid systems in our body. And my own experience is that my lab work doesn't lie. It's been healing my immune system. It's been controlling my immune illness better than 10, 11 years worth of pharmaceuticals ever has. I was ravaging my body on the pharmaceuticals. When we talk about chronic pain and chronic illness, I don't think people really understand that these are not going away. I can't take something and cure myself. And I don't want to face a lifetime of pharmaceuticals. I think we all know that they can ravage a human body, that especially for pain management, people develop addictions and in turn tolerances, and the body needs more. And we're already back at something that doesn't belong in the body in the first place. There's people utilizing this for seizure disorders, for anxiety, depression, PTSD, including veterans that are suffering from physical ailments. And the PTSD, I can't imagine veterans are killing themselves at a rate at 25 per day. And I'm not sure if any of you have any experience or knowledge with antidepressants, specifically SSRIs. It's commonly said that you need to pay attention and be very self-aware because there's a good chance that it might increase like suicidal thoughts. I think we can all agree that that's not a path to take someone out of depression. This is a natural substance. We have systems in our body. It's an anatomical fact. Endocannabinoid system. It's there just as realistically as your cardiovascular, respiratory, and nervous systems. Cannabis has endocannabinoids and it's healing. It's meant to be in our body. It's not chemicals that are in some laboratory that we're tricking the body to think it's not in pain. We're actually healing ourselves. And why you would want that out of reach for people in your community like boggles me. I would implore you
Sorry,
to
we
at
don't
least-
have any standpoint yet. There's been no standpoint from the governing body yet. So we're not looking, we can't say we're reading it
I'm
or
thinking
not
about
reading it.
like previous thoughts with council and ordinances. But this is a healing medication. 67% of voters want it recreationally. So I think you should at least separate like medical and recreational, and please don't stigmatize medical. People are healing themselves. They don't want to be judged. Like, why am I, not a, it's their medical choice. And to put that out and hope that maybe some other community would maybe develop it around them, it's expensive. These people are on disability. Access Link is not taking you there. Uber is not getting your wheelchair in their car. Like, it is a serious problem. And I know it's hard to have the perception when these aren't realities, but please consider like everything from a wheelchair standpoint, from a dying and sick and suffering cancer patient. Do they really need to travel outside of the community? They could go a few places within your community and get narcotics and fentanyl and all of these things that actually are killing and hurting people. Thank you for your time.
Great points. Thank you very much. Ms. Held? Bambi Held? We're not doing something right. Bambi Held? She's coming. Bambi Held, did you want to speak? Okay, I'm going to go to the next and we'll come back to you. Jeff King.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jeff King, 24 Elizabeth Parkway, Eatontown. This is not the first time I've come to address your governing body. I was in town in person in the past before a different mayor, but you are on council, and I appreciate you guys have always been good listening to us and hearing our point of view that cannabis, obviously, I'm with everyone when it comes to the medical use. And I think that you guys have always been pretty kind to patients. You've been pretty hospitable, and I don't see you banning medical. I don't think that that would make any sense. It would be cruel and inhumane and without compassion, and that's not Keyport. You're a sort of a sanctuary or a refuge for us with the Out of Control shop. That was a big deal back in the day when it was hard to have acceptance like that. Appreciate that for sure. Even though, it's a tough decision. You're not going to please everyone, but I feel like it's really kind of a no-brainer for Keyport, and to say whether or not you should have it on the highway and downtown is not an either or, it's both, without a doubt. And you can satisfy the person that just wants to make a quick stop before they go out of the area on the parkway. You can get that person that's just cruising through down to the shore. But then you want people to come downtown, like the people that come for dining and entertainment and drinking and socializing, and also just the waterfront. All those same tourists are going to want to stop in, just like they want to stop in any other shop, a coffee shop. Whether or not they spend a lot of money, they're going to come. you know how it is with the businesses. You understand, it'll fit in both places. And obviously the other licenses may or may not work just based on any other zoning consideration that any municipality faces. You know how this stuff works. It's not really that technical. I have a lot of faith that you're going to come through with a really good position that benefits the residents and the folks that like to come through, like myself, and the patients. I'm excited about Keyport. I've always thought that with Monmouth County, we have a few towns that are going to do it right. And I thought you guys are in that class with Red Bank and Asbury Park. I don't see why you would just drop the ball on this. So I would just say that you really, to more focus on what you really want is something that's diverse, women, minority, and veteran owned, exciting and different, local, quality medicine, quality plants, organic, with a low carbon footprint, environmentally friendly. Yeah, the state's going to run the show, but we have entrepreneurs that can really do exciting things. And Monmouth County Grown is going to be really something that I think we're going to be excited about, just like we are with the breweries and distilleries and all the other things, vineyards. So Keyport can take hold of this green opportunity. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. I think you can build your reputation on it. As the other people that were commenting, I thought made some excellent points that I really feel that we're on the right track here. So, if you don't want it in town, I hope you'll support home growing, because that's what people voted for. That's the ultimate liberation of the plant and the people. It's not all about making money. As much as the governor has lost his progressive spirit on the home growing front, I wish you would communicate with him and the people in Trenton that home growing is part of this discussion that we really absolutely deserve. There's just no excuse. New York has it, but that's not maybe for Keyport. But I do say I'm a fan of the garden tour. And if I saw cannabis plants on the garden tour, I would be excited to learn about it, to learn about what they're doing. It's not, I'm not kidding though. I'm really trying to be serious. We have to think differently. The stigma really was harmful to people of color, especially for my whole life. And it's exciting to be able to turn the page and get something for everyone out of this. So maybe you'll have Martha Stewart, who knows? I hope it's good for you though, and I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Bambi Held, are you there? Bambi? Okay, Edward Grimes?
Good evening, Council. My name is Edward Lefty Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org. We're a 501c3 here in New Jersey. And yes, we've been to Keyport many times. I love Keyport, especially. 68%. 68%. No, it's not the number you're thinking of. 68% of Jesus's miracles were for the disabled. And when you make a decision, I would really ask that you consider people in wheelchairs and people with cancer and people with multiple sclerosis in your town, that it's very hard to get around if you're in a wheelchair or if you're sick. Taking an Uber, it's a lot of us don't have money, and we're getting hit from all sides. We're getting hit with taxes. We're getting hit with bans. Towns banning it. Our medicine's not covered by insurance. Just hurtful stuff. Plus, our illnesses are killing us too, and we really need help. With the wheelchair access, I mean, if you're going to tax it, I know the tax may be inevitable, but I call it a wheelchair tax. I call it a cancer tax. I call it a multiple sclerosis tax, because it's a tax. And I believe if you're going to use that tax, we need representation with that taxation, and make sure that every business in Keyport is wheelchair accessible from the street. A lot of towns have done that, taken them upon themselves, like Linden. When they do their sidewalks, they made sure all the businesses were compliant. A few towns have done that. So I think there might be a couple in Keyport left. I'm not sure. It's been a while. I hope that they had fixed that problem. But please consider the sick and the dying. If you have to wheel yourself in a wheelchair, I've gone to a lot of town meetings, and I ask each council, spend the day in a wheelchair. and see how far you would want to go if you were sick and dying and suffering to have to go get your medicine somewhere. You'd want it close by. And if you live in Keyport, you want something really close by, because I wouldn't leave Keyport if I lived there. I'd be there all day. It's beautiful. I just love it there. The last time we were there was with our friend Jeff, who had passed away, and we got back a quarter pound of cannabis for a patient that was had his cannabis taken away, and the council and the mayor and the police were very helpful in getting that back, because it was just a mistake, and it shouldn't have been taken, and we didn't have to get lawyers or anybody involved. We just asked for compassion, and you guys gave us compassion, and we will always appreciate and remember that. You don't see that much. So especially for patients, because like I said, we're getting hit from all sides. We need your help. We need your help with home grow. Across the border, they can grow cannabis for kicks, for the jollies, just for fun. Here in New Jersey, you grow cannabis for your kid who has epilepsy or for your cancer, you're going to jail. You're getting a felony. You're going to lose your kid. It's awful. They need to change that immediately and allow for home grow, because I would love to grow a few plants for myself. They just found mold in some of the stuff in one of the dispensaries. I mean, mold. We're paying top dollar for moldy cannabis. It's ridiculous. I'm hit from all sides. So please, we need your help. Just for medical, we need your help, please. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for commentary. Mr. Greenberg, you had a raised hand. Did you want to comment?
Yes, I'm sorry, I did. So just
Your name and address for the record.
Oh, sorry, Darren Greenberg, 144 Therese Avenue. Just keep it short and sweet. I really feel that having a facility down by the waterfront would be great for the town. I mean, it's just bringing more people into what is our town, which is that waterfront. You know, there's restaurants. It just gives people another reason to come here. And I mean, you have liquor stores, you have delis that sell cigarettes, which are items that are just, you know, potentially worse than cannabis and weed and marijuana, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, I just really feel that way. And that's it. Like I said, I was going to keep it short and sweet.
Sorry, thanks so much, Mr. Greenberg. Anyone else on video, if you wish to speak on this topic, if you'd like to raise your hand? Ms. Galloway? Ms. Galloway, with your hand raised? No, okay. If you're on video, is she raising her hand? I feel like she is. Am I saying
She's
her name
talking to
wrong?
somebody else.
I don't know. Who? Oh, thank you. Hugh Giordano.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, if you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Yes, my name is Hugh Giordano, and my address is 57 Argyle, Blackwood, New Jersey. I'm calling today as a representative of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW Local 152. The UFCW represents cannabis workers from seed to sale, both medical and adult use. And I just wanted to give input as far as labor in context to cannabis regulations. Cannabis creates really great jobs. And specifically in New Jersey, we have the best labor standards in the country when it comes to cannabis. So these jobs will be union jobs from seed to sale. So the cultivation workers, the packagers, the trimmers, the people who transport the cannabis, people who sell the cannabis, the bud tenders, they will all be union jobs, which means that they'll have dental, vision, healthcare, good wages, sick time, paternity leave. And what that does is when you have adult use cannabis and or medical cannabis in Keyport, it creates a new economy. And a lot of these jobs are jobs that are well educated, chemistry, botany, and other forms of science. And even in the dispensing side of it, there's a lot of business that goes into it as well. So these are well-educated young workers who will come into your town and will not only create careers, but spend their money that they make. And that will definitely boost the economy. I would also just suggest that you take a tour of the Garden State Dispensary, which is located in Woodbridge. The reason I suggest the Garden State Dispensary is because it was the first unionized dispensary in New Jersey from the original 6 of the medical. And you can see the whole process from seed to sale, from the seed to the actual packaging to the sale of the product. And you can see the clientele that comes in as well, which is usually 50 years of age or more. So I just want to say that I hope that the council considers having not only cannabis within its town and providing medicine to patients and also adult use consumers, but you also consider labor standards. The city of Bayonne actually passed an ordinance about 2 weeks ago, and that's a really well-crafted bill. So I would suggest that you look at the city of Bayonne, because what it does is it looks not only at labor standards, but it looks at environmental standards, community standards, hiring processes, and if they're a multi-state employer, which means they have a current cannabis business in another state, it gives you the power to look at their past and their practices and decide if you want them in your town or not. So I would suggest checking out the city of Bayonne's cannabis ordinance and also take the tour of the Garden State Dispensary. Again, my name is Hugh Giordano, and I'm with the UFCW Local 152. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Excellent commentary. I'm still on video, raising of hands. So there's someone by the name of Michael who has their hand raised. If they could state their name and address for the record, please. Okay.
Hello, that's Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport.
Is that your hand raised on the video?
Yes, I do.
Great. Look at you multitasking.
Pardon?
I said, look at you multitasking. Good job, Mr. Lane.
Well, with the eyesight, I have to have
That's
a
great. Sure. Understood.
a display that is about 3 feet by 4 feet.
Understood.
And so and then I have the phone. Couple of things. And these are just issues to be resolved with time. We've heard a lot of input about homegrown cannabis. Some clarification with time as to the number of plants, and are we going to allow homegrown cannabis? That definitely takes away from the revenue aspect that was promoted by a couple of the speakers. The issue with odor. I lived in Boulder, Colorado for 10 years, and the odor is just overwhelming. My understanding of the legislation that's been passed is that cannabis consumption has to be done in a building with proper air filtration. Just like cigar bars. And you can purchase the cannabis in the front entrance of the building, and then you have to go into a separate room to be able to consume. I hope we're not going to have outside consumption of cannabis. Certainly wouldn't want it in the promenade. I certainly wouldn't want it next door to my house. I've already experienced multiple cigars being smoked next door, and it's just overwhelming. And cannabis would be really a setback. The requirements for the minimum distance. I heard Andrew Kelsey's input. We do have requirements for alcohol, and that requirement is 200 feet from churches, from schools. So as a minimum, I would hope we would not go below that number. Be interesting to see what the state comes up with. The need for additional public health measures. There's a lot of data now that says vaping of cannabis is very bad for your health. And so I think you need to think about not allowing vaping of cannabis in the consumption areas or in the places that sell facilities for cannabis. Regulation on the level, as I said, of obnoxious odor. The borough, one of the issues is right now the borough has an alcoholic beverage commission. Is the borough also going to have a commission to deal with licensing of cannabis businesses? Will there the really important thing, as I said before, is where cannabis consumption areas are going to be, hopefully all indoor. Now, you had talked about 6 types of business: growing cannabis, large scale, warehousing, production, manufacturing. Some of the speakers recommended that you look at other towns and other states. And I recommend you, when you look at these other businesses, you do that. I can send you a ordinance from a town where they allow cannabis manufacturing, and those plants have to be encircled by chain link fences 10 feet high, topped with razor wire for security. So as you get into these businesses where you have more concentrated levels of cannabis, you're going to have new things to deal with. And you need to look at ordinances from other states like Massachusetts and other towns like Boulder, Colorado, as you work through the problem. Thank you for the opportunity to give input.
Thank you for your commentary, Mr. Lane. Mrs. Henning?
Hi, Jennifer Henning again, 102 Main Street. To Mr. Lane's point, the New Jersey cannabis law expressly forbids growing cannabis at home. Now, someone did introduce a law to allow, I believe it was 10 plants maximum, but the law as it stands right now does not allow growing cannabis. And there is a state commission, Mike, that's going to oversee the governance. I think it's called the Cannabis something commission, but you can look it up online. There's some were appointed by the governor and I think some by the Senate, but that's who's going to oversee the governance.
Thank you. Anyone else by show of hands that's on video before we move to the phone lines? Mr. Maroney? Can you unmute?
Patrick Maroney, 313 Main Street. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thanks for taking input on this. I appreciate it. Just in terms of the vote, I did look up what Keyport, what the percentage of yes votes in Keyport, and it was 69%, which is actually a couple more percentage points than the rest of the state. In regards to, I kind of want to agree with most of the callers here, and express support for allowing retail cannabis downtown to, stimulate the economic vitality of the borough. We have bars and liquor stores, all up and down Front Street, good for them. I mean, these are well-regulated businesses. They're good neighbors. There's no reason to believe, I think, that a cannabis shop wouldn't be a good neighbor. And I think just to, flatly decide that a certain type of business is allowed and another is not, it's kind of discriminatory for lack of a better word. And so, yeah, like consumption will be a separate issue. And I guess that's about it. I think, a lot of people made great points tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maroney, for your commentary too. Mr. Straub?
Yes, I didn't give my address earlier, Jack Straub, 239 Main Street. I had a discussion with Councilmember Fotopoulos a couple of weeks ago. He was kind enough to reach out and ask me a few questions about the topic, and I'm sure he'll talk about it later when the council members speak. I understand people are interested in bringing people to downtown, which is obviously a great thing to do. With the legalization and the sale of this, it will bring a lot of traffic. And as we know, in downtown Keyport, there are issues with traffic and issues with parking. So in my discussions with Councilmember Fotopoulos, I had spoken about, because of those reasons, possibly you would want to look more toward the highway. That's not to say you couldn't have something in downtown. And I mentioned to the council member that my brother actually has firsthand experience. He was involved with the company that set up the dispensary in Leicester, Massachusetts, which was one of the first in Massachusetts. He actually ran the parking. And what they did there, because the dispensary, which is a company named Cultivate in Leicester, was in the downtown area, my brother actually set up a remote parking site at a farm and bussed people in. So there are a lot of things to consider. I would just say that you wouldn't want to necessarily rule out having a dispensary downtown, but you have to keep in mind the parking issues and the traffic issues, but they could possibly be addressed with a remote parking solution similar to what they did in Leicester.
Great feedback, thank you. Anyone else on video? Am I missing anyone on video? Bambi, are you there? Next, we'll go to the phone lines.
John Merla, 34 Broad Street.
Mr. Merla?
Just a couple items on this issue. I've heard most, if not all, speak tonight regarding this issue. And first, I'd like to say, we all know data, good or bad, is always subject to opinion. If you want it to look good, you make it good. If you don't want it to look good, you don't make it good. However, the law was passed by a 2-to-1 margin. Was passed prior to that, similar margin. My only thoughts and concerns are this. I really think the borough should be focusing on not if we bring it in, but where we put it. The designation is so important and crucial. Going back many years ago, while I was in office, an adult bookstore wanted to move in, and they would have been in if they didn't advertise coming soon. It would have went in because the borough at the present time back then didn't have an ordinance to not allow that in that zone. And what I'm trying to say is the borough now should do a few things. This is my opinion. We should check to see where, if allowed right now, where would that be? What zones, what facilities, until we create our own ordinance. There may be ordinances right now that we are not really familiar with that allows it. It just may be under another technical legal name instead of a cannabis warehouse or facility or distillery. My second thought would be is, it came up before, the council should also look, and the police department should join in with them. There's a dispensary in Monmouth County. It's in Eatontown. I'm surprised one of the speakers that was from there didn't speak about that. It's on Highway 35 North, Garden State Dispensary. I think we should talk to the officials from Eatontown and ask why they designated a highway area for that purpose. And since it's been implemented, how is it? How's the feedback? How's the place being run? Any problems? Any problems with law enforcement? So we get that data. Now we have that data based on firsthand information. And I think the police department should be involved a little bit in the designation of a and I'm not saying that the borough hasn't thought about this and isn't going to allow the police department their say or their recommendation, because we do that now with liquor license renewals. We do that now with facilities within churches and parks and playgrounds. And, you know, we've done that for years as the laws come out. But I really think we need to look and designate an area that's not going to have an impact on our community. And I'm not saying, you know, the borough may decide, you know, that this is a great spot, putting it right in the middle of town. Some people may agree, some may not. But we have to do, I think, our due diligence to make sure that when we do it right. And I'm sure that's what your plans are to do. And, you know, Mayor, this is not a simple issue. And it's complicated because of the fact that it will have an impact regardless of where you put it. Not everyone's going to be in support of it. So that's just my thoughts and my 2 cents. And I thank you for your time. And I thank you for listening to this.
No problem. Thank you for your comments and feedback. Anyone else on video? Show of hands. I'm sorry, we were on the phone lines. Oops. Anyone else on phone line that want to comment? If you can unmute yourself or push *6. Michelle, am I missing anyone? Okay, going once, going twice. Can I have a motion to close to the public for this topic?
Motion.
Hello? Damn it. Oops. Can we undo that motion?
Motion to undo the motion.
Well, the second.
Yes.
Hey, it's Bambi Held, 53 Atlantic Street, Keyport.
There you are. I don't know what happened. Sorry.
I apologize for my technical difficulties. There were just a couple of things I wanted to raise. First, regarding Mr. Kelsey's drug-free zone map, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but drug-free zones refer to illegal drug activity, and we're discussing a legal substance here. Secondly, for those who've had concerns about public consumption, I will remind you that medical cannabis has been legal for years in New Jersey, and I assure you, we have been consuming our meds wherever it's been legal to consume them, and that's been wherever smoking in public is allowed, so is our consuming of medical cannabis. I don't know whether any of you have noticed us consuming, but we have. Just something to think about. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that we were able to call in. And thank you for your patience before. Can I have a motion to close to the public?
Can I?
Go ahead, Mrs. Henning.
Now, is this still, you're moving on? Is there going to be another public portion for other issues? Oh, okay, okay.
Do I have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes or abstain? Okay. Next, can we have attorney's report?
Mayor, I don't have a report this evening.
Okay, what I would like to request is, now that we have public feedback for 2 different meetings, plus a lot of information that you've circulated, I would like to suggest that the next council meeting, I would like to form a council committee. Lori and David, Councilwoman Davidson, Councilwoman McNamara had both reached after me after I had requested asking council members to form a committee expressing that they would like to be on it. Councilman Good, I know you had spent some time dabbling in the draft ordinance. Would you like to be on that committee as well?
It would be my honor.
Great. So, Jake, for the next meeting, if we can do a council committee with the 3 committee members, and they can work on a dialogue and possible legislation to report back to the full governing body. Next, can I have a motion to open to the public, reminding everyone that this public comment has a 5-minute per person limit.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go by show of hands for public comment. If you're on video, Mrs. Henning.
Jennifer Henning, 102 Main Street, Keyport. Bambi, thanks for clarifying the drug-free zones. I'm watching on my phone, so I couldn't see that map. So that's an excellent clarification. I'd like to speak to the issue of the COVID spike that's getting a lot of ink and I guess TV time now. And I'd like to address it to both the mayor and council and KBBC. I'd like to know what, well, I guess I should preface, I like, like everybody in Keyport, I like to support the local businesses. But I've really not shopping much in Keyport because of the number of times that I have entered local businesses, and I hesitate to say this because I really, like I said, I like to support local businesses, but I was counting them while we were in this meeting. There's 6 businesses in the last couple of months I've been in where the person that I ostensibly serving me was maskless, and other people maskless. And I often walk my dog and see people maskless, too many people in other places. So I wonder if there's a plan, any specific actions that the town has taken, because I can't be the only, I know that other people I speak to, one of the places yesterday, somebody told me their daughter went in to the same place and they were maskless. So I'm wondering what the borough is doing, what the KBBC is doing, what specific actions or plans or brainstorming that's being done to address, because if it, there really has to be some kind of plan to address this, because it's really a real problem. We all know. So.
Thanks, Mrs. Henning. As you know, the state has continuous guidelines coming out, both being guidelines and some by executive order. It's a blend between our local police and state officials coming in. There is a link on the state website that you can report any business or entity that is not following the guidelines, and the state will come in and follow that up. And I can tell you that there's been numerous fines to our business establishments for either not adhering to the population allowance or masking or different things. As far as KBBC and the borough, Nicole Henn did a phenomenal job securing a lot of PPP through the MPP CARES Act funding and the MPP committee, and they have distributed it to the businesses. In regards to KBBC, same thing, we provided information if they needed assistance securing any PPE information through grants.
I'm not talking about PPE. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm talking about education. It's not good. It's not good for business.
Mm-hmm. I know our local police department, Chief Torres is on, and she can also speak to this, that they have definitely spoken to businesses throughout the last year that were not complying to state
I know.
mandates. There's also a difference between guidelines and mandates. So, we can recommend it when it's a guideline, but we can't enforce something when it's only a guideline. When it's a mandate, then if it's out of the Keyport Police Department's jurisdiction, then they can and have referred things to the state.
So I understand that's what I can do. And I understand that, that the police can only they can only enforce, what is enforceable. I understand that. I'm asking if the borough has a plan. Have they discussed with individual business owners? Hey, this may be a problem with your business. People may not be coming in. It's, when the town gets in the news.
I have spoken to people that I haven't seen wearing masks, but I don't know about other governing body members.
There's no specific plan by the borough to address it as a business roundtable or something like that. Guys, nothing like that any specific education or outreach plan.
Not anything further than what the state and the county has done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the public have comments? Mr. Graham?
Oh, may I speak?
Mr. Graham, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. As far as the COVID situation goes, I personally think New Jersey should open up again. It's about time within the CDC guidelines, within the safety guidelines, but the state should go back to opening up again within the safety guidelines. That's my opinion on that. Second thing is on the Veterans Committee, I'm glad to see that could finally, I'm just glad to see that you're finally going to start the Veterans Committee again. And that's good news there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Michael Lane?
Michael Lane. I brought up the issue of trying to set a date that the addendum to the agenda, all the additions will be available by Monday noon. Can I get any support on that?
At this point in time, no.
Oh, all right. All right. Second issue is the need for a resolution opposing the gas pipeline across Raritan Bay that the council already submitted 2 resolutions. Any reason not to take one of those resolutions and just submit it, continuing opposition?
I could defer to see if Councilman Fotopoulos wants to bring this back to environmental, or Councilmember McNamara or Pacheco want to bring this to Harbor.
What's the timeline?
The timeline was 24 hours because we didn't get the information when the window opened.
24 hours from when? I mean, are we too late?
24 hours from 4/6 when I sent you the email today.
So Leslie, is there a way that we can, I'm sorry, Mayor?
I have not had a chance to read that email today. I don't know if anyone else even saw it.
I did breeze through it. Leslie, what if we were just to resend the opposition resolution that we've already voted on?
If someone has, well, if you add it to your agenda, amend your agenda to add it, and then you'd have to read it so that everyone knows what it says.
Mike, I think that, what I'm hearing is that there's just not, there's a willingness, I'm sure, but there's just not time enough to turn it around with the 24 hours.
All right, then if we can get it on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Yeah,
Or can we do what Councilman Fatopoulos suggested? Since we already have a resolution, can we send, even though it's past dated, the same resolution that's already voted on?
We could,
Just to show that we're against it?
we would have to put it on the next meeting's agenda, Mayor, and then we can do that, sure.
No, I mean, like, can we, like, literally just send the resolution that was already adopted in the past? Does it have to be a brand new resolution?
I'm not suggesting a new resolution, no.
Let me see if I can make a motion. I make a motion that we resend the resolution to the recipients we sent to before, with a reassertion of our position.
second.
Can we do that, Leslie?
If everyone understands what that resolution is, and it's.
Right.
That's another
We
thing.
don't have that here tonight,
I
so
got-
that's why if we just take one that was already voted on and send a copy of it.
But the other thing too is that there are two council members here that did not vote on this one. So we would have to re-vote on that specific resolution,
Also,
or can they abstain? I don't know.
Councilman Pacheco has something.
I am actually reviewing the email, and it looks like public comments are due by 5 o'clock today.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Lane just done.
Withdraw my motion.
So.
I think it's a great idea.
Just, can we send a copy of what was voted on in 2020? Just say that the 2020 governing body stands on this. And then at the next council meeting, put it back on and see if we have full support of everyone. If we're late, we're late.
I support that.
Sure.
Michelle? Did you receive Mr. Lane's email today to know where this is supposed to be sent? Mr. Lane, can you please forward that email to Ms. Clark?
I will do that tonight.
Thank you.
All right, I have one other issue, and we're making a change in the zoning ordinance, because now we've defined something called incidental, and there's no definition of what incidental is. When you have an operation that generates 20,000 gallons of alcohol, which can be bottled in 100,000 gallons, 100,000 fifths of alcohol, which can generate multi-million dollars in revenue, that's not incidental. What is incidental? Also, when you look at the square footage of the operation, what's the definition of incidental? So we have a gap now created by this quote, incidental. It's not defined in any of our zoning ordinance. And our zoning ordinance very clearly does not allow dispensaries, and it doesn't, I'm sorry, not dispensaries, distilleries, and it does not allow wholesale or warehousing operation in the general commercial district. I'm not opposed to the distillery as such. I'm opposed to bypassing the zoning ordinance of the borough of Keyport, which we all swore to uphold.
Thank you. Mr. King?
Good evening, Jeffrey King, Eatontown. I just wanted to touch on a couple of points that came up earlier. As far as consumption lounges, I don't like cigar smoke. I don't like nicotine smoke and perfume odors. I agree with that. But let's consider that consumption might not just mean smoking or even vaping, which is different than smoking. It might mean tinctures. It might mean edibles. It might mean a fine dining meal prepared by chefs that are trained and very highly skilled in one of your best restaurants or in a wedding banquet facility. Bud tenders, they're called instead of bartenders. So consumption is different maybe than just the odor, which I would agree with. We don't need odors in any event. Just wanted to say, with respect to Massachusetts, I had a wonderful short vacation there to see what was going on and participate in their dispensaries. And I went hiking in the woods, and I went to the Boston Pops, and I saw the Norman Rockwell Museum, the birthplace of W.E.B. Du Bois, and just had a great time touring around and spending my money in the restaurants for breakfast and lunch and dinner, and in the hotel in North Adams. Really wonderful time, and I can see people doing that on Jersey Shore, but I can see them doing that in Asbury Park and Red Bank, and I think that Keyport should be on that list. So I just thought I would share, since Massachusetts came up, reminded me of my trip before COVID in 2019 when it was a nascent industry. So let's not miss out on that opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Mr. Grimes?
Good evening, Edward Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org, 501c3. I just wanted to thank you for letting us to be seen. A lot of towns don't allow us to be seen, and I think it's important that you see us. You hear our voices, but you don't see our emotions, and you see if we're in a wheelchair. You can see if we're in pain. I mean, I had a couple of spasms last meeting, and I was, I made some really crazy faces. I don't know if you saw it, but these are things that we need to see. It's part of the experience of going to a public meeting. It's a public meeting. It's for us. It's for the public, and we want to be seen. Some towns don't even allow us to be heard. You have to write a letter in Union Township. You have to write a letter to the clerk, and then the clerk reads your letter to the mayor and council, which is ridiculous, because I had an issue that meant a lot and had a lot of emotion attached behind it. And the clerk, they can only just read the letter and not even the whole letter. So I thank you for letting us be seen. It's something we've seen in about maybe 10 councils, 12 that we've been to. We go all over the state, and a lot of towns are not complying with that order. That if you're using video, you're supposed to show video. We're supposed to be seen. If we could see you, we should be able to see. If you're just using telephone, then it's fine. We're all just telephone. But I think that should be uniform across the board. I have about 5 or 6 different programs on my phone and my computer. WebEx, Cisco, Zoom, Meet Me, all these, and we have to download them and put them into our phones or our computers. And it's very unorganized and ununiform. And that's all I have to say about that. So thank you. And I also want to say, I don't think it's fair that Canada's cancer makes you lose your gun rights. I think that we have a Second Amendment right. And I think once you get your cannabis card, if you're a cancer patient, you lose your gun rights. And that's a federal issue. I know, I understand that, but I think that's another issue that has to be brought up, because when you talk about cannabis, the cops should be able to get cannabis. And I think that some cops are already getting it, and it's a don't ask, don't tell policy, and that's fine if that's the way it has to be. But there should be a policy. I believe the Attorney General sent a letter to a town in Hudson County that's saying you guys can get your cards, get your cannabis cards. If an officer tests positive, it's treated the same way he would test positive for opiates. If he has a prescription, then it's okay. The cops need that option too. They're suffering just as much. They have PTSD. They get injured on the job, and the first thing the doctor does is put them on opiates, and that's the last thing anyone needs, is to be hooked on any kind of opiate, because that's where it starts. I lost a family member because of opiates addiction, and it was from a doctor. Doctor started him on it, and very innocent, but it just spirals fast, and it's sad. So cannabis got me off of opiates. I was on opiates for 10 years, 90 milligrams of Roxy every 3 hours. I have an artificial disc, L4-L5. I have a Fusion L5S1. I have a 2-level cervical here. When I had this 2-level cervical, I was afraid that I was going to go back on opiates. This is a couple of years ago, and sure enough, I got some FECO oil and some suppositories in the FECO, and I did not take any opiates for this surgery. This I don't know if you can see the scar, but no opiates. And I was shocked that just cannabis got me through that surgery. It was amazing. And so that's why one of the reasons I advocate for it. And because I've seen how other people have benefited too. A lot of my friends who passed away, but it gave them a quality of life at the end and helped them quite a bit. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes. Anyone else on video? Show of hands. Anyone else on the phone lines?
John Merla, 34 Broad Street.
Hey, Mr. Merla.
Hi, two issues, Mayor. I know it's late, so I'm going to opt to just discuss the one issue with Councilmember McNamara since it involves recreation and the Main Street ball field. The other is over the weekend for Easter, Friends of the Bayshore hooked up with Crossroads Worship Center and the Keyport Matawan Elks, as well as the Rain Foundation, to distribute 179 Easter baskets throughout the Bayshore for those less fortunate. They came to the church. A couple of businesses from Keyport helped out. After the hunt, the passing of the baskets, we had a little discussion, and today we took a ride. And I don't know, basically, I know things are a little different now than they were a couple years ago, but the group would like to, for Earth Day, clean a borough facility, which is in dire need of a good cleaning, and that's the senior center on 2nd Street. So I don't know what kind of approval we need. I know there was a cleanup today, some of the ball fields. I don't know, do we need a formal letter to the mayor and council? Do you need a verbal? What exactly do you need for volunteers to clean a borough facility? It's going to be our Earth Day project. There'll probably be about 15 volunteers. We'll supply all our own bags. We'll supply all our own gloves, and we'll supply all our own lunch to the volunteers. So the only thing we're asking the borough for is to let us clean it, because if you ride by, it needs a cleaning, and we'd love to do that.
Mr. Merla, couple of questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Are you referring to the outside of Senior Center?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The front, particularly the front. The back's got some leaves and stuff, but it's not crazy. But it's there's overgrown shrubs and plants that are dead, and we just wanted to spruce it up a little bit.
Understood. Thank you. The I'm not sure if you're aware, if you were on that meeting, but any formal approvals for anything on borough property is on hold through at least May 1st, and then we'll consider if it's going to be longer. So a formal adoption of an approval, we wouldn't be able to do at this point in time. But I did see on social media, someone pointed out to me late this evening that there was a group that went down to the beach.
Which I applaud. I applaud them, and I think that
I
was
applaud
great.
them too, except we really can't have people gathering, as we've pointed out already, and the news has pointed out, we are in a hot zone. So with the increase in spikes of cases. So we would not be able to approve something for Earth Day, just like we are not moving forward with our beach sweep.
All right, we'll revisit it in May.
But could we table it? Yes, right. Could we, I don't, want to say no. But can we revisit this in May?
Sure.
Or maybe if you guys happen to show up on that property, Mr. Good, could we stop them from cleaning the leaves?
I mean, that's one of those things where, is anybody going to say stop going onto the property? I don't know. They trespassing? I have no idea.
Well, you know what? Maybe the best thing is revisiting it in May, and we can call it the just earth cleanup or something. It doesn't have to be Earth Day. It was just a formality. But we want to help. We want to do something, and we thought that would be a little project, and it would be nice to give back when the seniors go back, hopefully, into their facility. The facility would be nice, and that's all.
Thank you. I appreciate the offer.
Does the garden club still do anything in the front there?
Excuse me?
I was asking the mayor, sorry, John.
Oh.
Does the garden club do anything in the front there with the plants? I
They
know that
take care of the plantings.
I know they did the plantings there and everything.
But I
was just
know also,
if they still do.
what?
I think they do.
They were doing the plantings, but it's
Yep.
also, Jay, is that part of the landscaping contract to do the senior center, right? It is, right? And that service hasn't got up and running for this season. So they should be doing a cleanup of that property as well.
Right.
But there are definitely places that we could use
Yeah.
help with, so maybe we could
You
coordinate
might-
a volunteer day.
And it doesn't have to just be one. If you have more than
Yep.
one, we have the volunteers now. So,
That's great.
and they want to help. And a lot of the kids, honestly, get hours, which they need to make their community and their confirmation to graduate school. And they're not getting it right now as much as because they're not in school. And that's a
And we have
mandatory
things shut
thing
down
now
too,
to
right.
do community service. And we want to
Yeah.
just provide that for the town.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other members on the phone lines?
I'm sorry. I know you all have been on for a while, but this is Tina Wright, Broad Street, Keyport, Kiwanis. I just wanted to know when you said table it, what does that mean? Like next meeting in May?
Next meeting would be in April. Councilman Good?
I'm sorry, April?
Clarification, when you tabled?
Well, I figured since there were enough questions that were posed to the Kiwanis about, it would give them time to come up with an answer and maybe formulate a response, because Mayor, like you said, I think every new president, or at least the last one, made the same thing about the same responses about the same issues with the cleanup and all the stuff. Maybe we're gonna maybe they'll come up with a plan or something else. Just give them time to answer that. So if it's by next time and they want to tell us what's going to be different, then it'll be 2 weeks. If they can't come up with an idea until May, then I guess it'll be 4 weeks. So that was what I was proposing.
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
My question is, and forgive me if the answer is absolutely, but are the issues, the specific issues, documented and sent by email or anything to the Kiwanis not across time, but in an encapsulated email, so they can address each one? And if not, can we send it out?
Everybody
That was my next
received
question.
the emails of complaints and issues back in October of 2019 with a compiled document of PDF, continuous emails and letters that were sent from administrators back then, and continuous dialogue.
Can we
And other, and we had a meeting with Ms. Wright to go over those concerns, as well as the additional concerns that have arisen in the last 2 years. So yes, dialogue has taken
Okay,
place.
what I would do is I thought I addressed the ones that were current. I'll go back and see if those emails were sent to the last president. I'll just see if he has those emails as well, and I'll just compile a list from those in the current ones.
And that gives a chance to the governing body members to go through those emails themselves. They have them.
Yeah, I will ask him for those emails tomorrow and then, go through the emails with the rest of the, members. Cause like I was saying before, when I had the opportunity to speak with you and Mr. Delaney, I was not aware of all the concerns. And I know that the other members, that wasn't brought back to us as well. So I will ask him for those and then we will go over those, each line item.
Would it not be more time beneficial if, I mean, these issues are on the forefront of the administrators and I'm sure the mayors and other council members' minds. If we could just put together a list and so we can all see it and you know, at least a punch list of things that are on the forefront that we would require for them to come back or get reinstated. Is that something I can?
That would be most
I
helpful.
would be glad to help with that if need
I
be.
would appreciate that so much.
I mean, I already went through the items this evening. The items have been discussed continuously over the last 6 years. I know I already sent a summary email back in 2019 when one was asked to the governing body. You can refer to that one. I can.
That's now 2 years ago. Is there any way you can re-forward that email to the current governing body?
The 2 new governing body members received it. You guys all still have it.
I'll look for it. Thank you.
Great, that's great. And as far as current topics, I've already addressed all those earlier tonight. And this is kind of one of my point is that it's the laborious, continuous work on our part. You know, same thing with the food trucks, you know, they came to KBBC. They wanted to do food trucks. That was changed to that they were going to do a raffle so that they could give out keyboard cash. That was multiple meetings of KBBC being involved. That didn't happen. Then they send the food trucks up to call Miss Purcell and then continuous dialogue with Mr. Gallo when he was still here because they want food trucks down there instead of the flea market. I can't even tell you how many times Miss Purcell has been bothered by that. And we tell them no every time, but they keep directing phone calls for that. So the amount of time that is spent by our municipality is extensive.
Okay. Again, I apologize. We knew nothing about the food trucks. But like I said, I just came in this year.
I understand. And that's why I, you know, came to the table with you, just like we did Martin and the president before that. So this isn't, no one's against the Kiwanis. As you know, I've attended.
Oh,
your
no, ma'am. I didn't say that.
events.
I didn't say that, ma'am.
So I know. I just want to make it clear for the record to the other people that I'm not anti-Kiwanis or any of the nonprofits in our municipality. It's just a matter of how much we can keep putting into this.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. White. Any other members of the public? You're on phone line, please push *6. Have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. Ms. London, I'll turn this over to you to read about the closed session.
Okay, we have a resolution to go into closed session to discuss PBA contract negotiations pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B4.
Okay, thank you. Since this information was circulated late this evening, I'm not sure, are we expecting to take any action when we come out of close so that the members of public know whether they should be remaining, or are we not taking any? Is this just discussion, Jay?
Just discussion.
Yes.
Okay, so anyone from the public, there'll be no action taken when we come out of closed session. Michelle, are we doing a breakout room or are we doing breakout room? Okay, great.
I'll have to just set that up. It'll take
Okay. The clerk is going to put the members that can go into the closed session into a breakout room.
And Jay, I'll make you a co-host.
I also had called in the last four digits 1047.
Okay. Can't do that with the phone number.
Mayor, I don't know if we talked about it, but the chief as well is joining us. There may be a point where she may excuse herself, but I think her presence could be perhaps helpful.
One 1047, Jay?
Yes.
5258.
There should be a, was there a vote on the resolution to go with it?
Wait, what?
The resolution authorizing the closed session, was there